Welcome. You are listening to the Mantic Universe podcast. My name is Chris, and as ever, I'm joined by my good friend Clem.
Hello, everybody.
And my good friend Mark.
Hey, how's it going, everyone?
And on a shameless publicity tour is our friend Steve.
Why am I not a good friend? Why is everyone else a good friend? I'm just
You're the shameless friend, Steve.
Friend.
Come on. No, shameless friend. That's not average. That's anything but average.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me back again. I know I'm not as good as Mark, but I'm still here.
We'll try that again. Steve, so nice to have you here.
It's all lies now. Hi.
Hey there, I'm Brian.
And I'm Rick.
From Deadzone, the podcast.
And you're listening to Mantic Universe Podcast.
For everything Mantic under the sun.
Super.
Well, to be honest, Steve, that's a lot better than, Steve, why are you here? But you're good.
Who knows?
To think, dear listener, these are the bits we leave in the podcast.
And to be honest, this is great, Steve. You and I haven't been on the pod together in a while, so this is fantastic. Yeah. Little reunion tour as well as a publicity tour. That's right.
I'm Rob Pannithor. Okay, carry on. Sorry.
We go. Let's get it out of our systems now. Just as we're trying to lure the listeners into an interesting podcast. Clem's got his head in his hands. So, welcome, dear listener. So, let's run you through the bit that I desperately don't want to screw up, and then I can relax. So, first we'll do our welcome and on the menu. We'll do our introduction. We'll talk through Mantic news. We'll talk through our Warpath Firefight, our Warpath Deadzone, our Pannithor and our Kings of War stuff. We're going to do a little small section on Clem playing on UB2, which I'm very much looking forward to, more than I look forward to playing on UB2. Clem's going to talk about his gaming day at Motion Lab, which is the venue he has his gaming days. And we're going to talk about our Kings of War gaming weekend.
No, we're not.
No, we're not, because we talked about it on the extra episode. We might mention it. It'll come up organically. And we won't mention our slow grow. So we've done great job with the notes. And Pannilore, and our Pannilore this month is we're going to be talking about Steps to Deliverance by Mark Barber. But Steve, I think you'll be gone by that time, which is a shame because I know you've read it. Yeah, it's a shame.
You can talk about it now, Steve.
We've then got one deeply inappropriate listener question, which we will touch on, so to speak. And then we will be separately recording our topic of the month. But it'll all be professionally edited in by me, so it'll all be so seamless the listener won't even notice. And then we'll just wrap up the show. Right.
What's the topic of the month? You didn't even announce it. Is that a surprise?
Oh, it's very much not a surprise. Steve, sorry, you've got your hand up.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to do my my review of Steps to Deliverance. Maybe you can stitch it in later. Here it is. It's in depth.
That's not what's going to happen. It's going to be right here, right now in the show. But
let's
go ahead.
No, Steve, let's do it. I'll be fascinated.
Steps to Deliverance. It's good. I like it.
Yeah.
All this for that.
You're going to make me edit that in.
I wrote a little review because I was going to do like a YouTube series of reviews for all of the Kings of War books. And your most recent episode reminded me that I was going to do that. And so I went to and I'd written this little review of all of the books as I've read them, so it was fresh. Anyway, I've lost it, so it's gone. So I'm not going to read it again. I've read it once. It was good. I liked it. So, yeah.
What about maybe just rather than go back and do it again, which seems a little bit unrealistic? Maybe just next time you read another one, just start it up again.
Yeah. The thing is, I've read nearly all of the ones. I've read all of the ones that have come out so far. I haven't read Rise of the Celestians, the newest one, but I've read Rob Burman's book because he sent it to me, and I've read Mike Rossi's book, and I've read Danny Graves's book because they sent me the preview copies of them all, just kind of to get an opinion, and I loved all of them. But when they come out, I'll be like that, read it like that. Hey, I'm in Danny Graves's book. He wrote me in it.
That's really cool. Hang on a second. Although knowing Danny Graves just a little bit, you need to be very careful what he's writing you in doing.
He made me very annoying, and yeah, I won't.
He made you very annoying.
Yeah, he made.
Is that how that works?
You. He wrote me true to life.
Too accurate. Too true. That's That's a shame, though. So you enjoyed the books and got very enthusiastic about them, but by the time other people will see them, you'll be like, "Yeah, I've read that 2 years ago."
I'm still
3 years ago.
enthusiastic about everything, so that's all right.
Have you noticed how almost all the titles are things going up or down? It's things ascending or falling.
If you think that Rob's book, Ascent of the Goblin King, if you read that, it's Ascent of the Goblin King. I just wonder what the smell of the Goblin King that scent, like old socks and entrails.
They could maybe have Scarlett Johansson on the adverts. When I'm in Pannithor.
Where did Scarlett Johansson come from?
I don't know. She's a famous celebrity.
What's she doing?
She's usually on the perfume adverts.
Just like goblin.
Jennifer Lawrence, dressed like a goblin. Actually, we had a question from Danny Graves, which is very much along these lines, but we'll get to that later, dear listener. And if you're still listening, dear listener, God bless you.
I like Pius. Pius is my favourite. Anyway, move on.
Oh, interesting. I've got it on the Kindle, but I've not started Pius yet. But super. That's good to hear. Okay, good. Good. Right. So let's move on with the introduction. Steve, it's always the introduction is always an issue when you're on. I've noticed.
Sorry again.
No worries. Super. Right. Apologies for last month. Yeah, probably something to do with the editing on the story I tried to read out, if I'm completely honest. But let's not hit me with a stick for that. So Mantic news. I'm pretty excited about the Dungeon Saga Origin stuff. I love the idea of there being kind of two versions, one kids friendly and one more kind of full fat dungeon crawler. So I suspect I'll be backing that when the time comes. So looking forward to that, playing it with the kids. Might try and get the kids to paint their own models, and then we'll have a go at that. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's always for me. It's always a bit of a question of finding the right group to play it, because I do have the current Dungeon Saga, and I played it a few times, but it's on very special occasions. Like, it's not really something we actually do in our gaming group for some reason. Like, I know at least one guy who's super into dungeon crawlers, but we never arrange games for it somehow.
But you did play it with with family, though, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I played Dungeon Saga with family, with my nephews and my wife as well.
Pretty cool. Yeah, nice.
That's really nice. And everything that I've seen so far from Dungeon Saga Origins looks really nice. I think I'm gonna get it as well.
And it's got Olaf the Barbarian, who's the special character, I think, for Northern Alliance. I'm very much looking forward to getting his model.
Probably something like this, yeah. It's kind of the cliche heroes, but I mean they're cliche for a reason.
The archetypal, yeah.
Archetypes,
Sorry, Mark. Go for it, buddy.
Oh, I was going to say that, I've got the big box. I backed the Kickstarter last time for Dungeon Saga, and I'm going to throw in on this one for sure. I have so many dungeon crawlers, I don't even know if I'll play it, but hopefully I'm going to, because what they're talking about is this is going to be simpler for kids as well as the complicated version. So, again, with a lack of time, are you going to be able to get a dungeon crawler experience out of a shorter time frame with some streamlined rules? And if you can, that's of benefit. So I'm looking forward to seeing more about it. But the models also look pretty good. It looks like they're on circular bases, but that's why we have knives. We can cut them off those bases and use them in Kings of War if things go sideways. But the sculpts look pretty good. And so I'm in. The models in the last version of Dungeon Saga weren't that good either. They were that super flexible, bendy, garbage board game plastic. I would even put it a grade below that. And so that's why I'm kind of interested to see it, because they're promising much better miniatures this time around. And they do. They look pretty good.
I'd be shocked if it wasn't, though, to be honest. The models Mantic have been putting out recently are far and away better. There you go. You're listening to Mantic Universe podcast for hard-hitting, criticisms of, we tell it like it is. And Steve, what are you building there? What is it you're working on there?
It's a catapult, but it's like it's a Gungan catapult, like from the films.
Oh, of course it is. Perfect. Oh, you're still working on your Gungans then?
Just one catapult left.
Just perfect.
Left. When it's this is my third one. When it's finished, this is great for a podcast. It'll look like that.
It looks lovely, yeah. I've seen the photos of your full Gungan army, and I can't believe how great it looks. To be honest, it's sensational. Brilliant.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Steve is that willing to go through with a joke him and his friend made one time.
100%. That's the kind of person I am. Take a joke, just repeat it until it's not funny anymore, and only I'm finding it funny, and then carry on repeating it. That's basically it.
Perfect. Super. Is there a way? And I think the answer is it's complicated, but is there a way so let's say, for example, when the new Dungeon Saga game comes out, or Hellboy or something, is there a way we could, in a fun way, play it on a Skype call somehow, like as a gang, play Hellboy or Dungeon Saga? Because if we could do that, that would be fun. But maybe we can take that offline. Steve,
probably, because it just means that one of you has the board with a camera on it, right? And it's like playing D&D, isn't it? You have the board, and you're like, well, I'm the rogue. Move me forward 3 spaces, please. And then you roll the dice on your camera. It's totally possible, like playing Roll20, isn't it?
I mean, we know how we are. We would each have our own Dungeon Saga board in front of us.
We could try it. Have you got the League of Infamy? Because I've still got it in its box. I've still not opened it.
Oh, that's a shame. Clem, I think you've got it, or did you sell it?
I have it in the box as well. Yeah.
Yep, I have a copy as well.
Yeah.
I think that's a great game. I'm really still keen to play it, but no one to play it with. So.
Same with Hellboy. Hellboy's a fantastic game, but yeah, it's just funny time. Anyway, super. And then we're counting this as Mantic News, Steve. So, Steve, this is your chance. So, 13 tickets left to quite possibly the finest Kings of War tournament that's ever been or will ever be.
Definitely be a Kings of War tournament. Yeah, no, this is very exciting. So obviously I've already bullied everyone on this call into buying a ticket. Thanks, guys, including Mark, to everyone's surprise, which is awesome. And I'm super excited. So we've sold 137 tickets to Clash of Kings in the UK on the 9th and 10th of, I want to say 9th is 8th, no, 9th and 10th of September this year, which is super exciting. It's going to be an incredible weekend. It's huge. It's the biggest Kings of War tournament that's ever taken place ever anywhere, which is both daunting and exciting at the same time. We're filling up the Nottingham. It's in Nottingham, which is the home of the Lead Belt. If anyone is thinking, oh, well, I'm not really a very good player, or maybe I'm new to the game and it sounds a bit daunting to go to a giant tournament. There are people coming to this tournament who have never played Kings of War before. They're coming just for the fun of it. They're brand new players. There are experienced players that are terrible, and there are good players and there are world-class players as well. So,
sorry, Steve, do you mean terrible at Kings of War or just terrible people?
Just terrible people. No, they're both. No. Everyone's coming is not terrible, apart from me. I think, everyone, lovely people. But
let's put that in the marketing. Not everyone coming is terrible.
I'm not very good. I'm better if I've rehearsed it and I can put it on a video. No, it's a really exciting thing, and we've got our own bar. We open the entire tournament if you drink, and we have our own bar to ourselves in the evening as well, which is just for us to hang out in. People are going to be playing board games and just chilling, and there'll be someone who is like you, I have no doubt about it. If you're worried about that, I've run into people who are like, oh, everyone seems to know each other at tournaments and it's a bit nerve-wracking. There will be tons of people just like that. It's a great time to come and hang out. If you've never been to Nottingham, it's a great time to come and visit, Forge World and some of the other places. Mantic is open on a Friday. There's even been some reprobates from another country talking about maybe even organising an ambush, like narrative tournament on the Friday if you come up early. That's you guys.
It's not pronouncements, everybody.
Oh, sorry,
not very exciting.
Yes, that's not an announcement. Yeah, let's get it. I mean, we're not organizing, right? We just throw stuff in the air and then someone else.
With a face. With a face, man. And it's we put our sort of hippie spin on it. I would describe it as.
So you force them to do it the way you want, and then you take no responsibility for it. That's genius.
That's the way to do it.
We criticize it once it really happens. It's not perfect.
Wrong. Do it this way. There's only 13 tickets left. So the early bird offer, which is a reduced price ticket, ends at the end of March. So I don't know when this is going out. Usually with Chris's very speedy, thorough editing tomorrow or tonight. But it'll be. So there's only 10 days or 9 days or 8 days left to get your ticket with the early bird price. The tickets are still selling pretty well. and there's only a handful of them left. I would advise you, if you're considering coming, then putting that money down now. And I would thoroughly recommend that if you play Kings of War, you might want to come to this tournament to have the greatest gaming experience of your life. The biggest gathering of other Kings of War gamers that you have ever seen, in a very cool venue, in a very cool place. And also, Mantic is going to be there. Rob Burman is coming, the author of Ascent of the Goblin King. Other Mantic people have also threatened to come, but haven't yet confirmed. I think it's going to be. Ronnie will definitely be there. Ronnie will be doing. So if you bring there's a massive goodie bag that you get if you come, which is full of stuff. And if you've bought an XL goodie bag, that's even more massive. And then
let's not talk about that because people might be disappointed.
Yeah, they're sold out. They're sold out. But if you bring a Mantic army, then you get a special miniature that's printed just for Clash of Kings events, which Ronnie will be giving himself out to all of the attendees as he's checking whether your armies are 90% Mantic by model count. It's going to be a fantastic time. There's some of the best painters in the country, in the world, are coming with their incredible armies. And bring your incredible army. That's it. That's made my advert.
Mark and Clem, I think, should we just, because we're going, and obviously we're spending a not inconsiderable amount of money to come, and obviously particularly Mark coming from Cleveland. Mark, do you want to just touch on a little bit of why this is the one you decided, right, that's it, I'm flying across the pond to come for this one?
Well, part of it's the location. It's in Nottingham, which is great, and I've always wanted to go there. So that's been a bucket list trip. 2, I want to support Steve Hildrew and his first adventure here is, running the Clash of Kings. 2, there's going to be 150 people there, so that's going to be awesome. 3, you and Clem are coming in, as well as Trent. So, we're going to be linking up and going out and having some fun. And, I always wanted to go, and this is the time. So I just said, you know what? It's time to go. And Aer Lingus started flying from Cleveland to Dublin, and then they fly straight into Birmingham. So it just all kind of started to, patch together. And, I'm just excited to come. It's just really going to be a good time. I'm just looking forward to seeing all the places that I just hear about or see pictures of and actually just experience it. So I'm very, very excited about coming and really grateful that, my wife is letting me come, and I got the time off work and all the stars aligned, and off we go. So I'm excited. How about you?
Absolutely. Clem, anything to add to that? I think that was a really good summary.
I mean, it's pretty much the same, right? Like it's, I've been to Clash of Kings in Cardiff, so that was 2 years ago, right? And it was also 3 years ago. No, 2 years ago. I don't remember. No, last year was in London, I think.
Yeah,
and the year
was the
before
one before
was in
London.
Cardiff.
Yeah,
right. And it's a really good weekend, right? Like it's you spend a whole weekend with people who love the same thing that you also love, and play a bunch of games and get to meet up with celebrities. You get confused with someone else.
You guys are the celebrities this time.
Holiday.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, we need sunglasses or something. I mean, no one knows what we look like, right? That's the good part of it.
I know posters.
Anyway, it's really kind of like the place to be in the year if you like Mantic Games and Kings of War in particular. Remember, we saw cool previews in Cardiff, so maybe we'll see also cool previews or get to chat with the team about what's going on with the game and what's coming up later. So yeah, and also location, obviously. Like I think that's the last drop. That's just like, okay, no, I'm gonna jump in and just take a couple more days than just the tournament and actually go and visit the place and have a good look around. So yeah, what about you, Chris?
Yeah, to me, it's everything you guys have said. It's just ticked all the boxes to the point I just can't say no. Steve's organising it, and joking aside, I know he'll do an absolutely outstanding job. And it's in Nottingham, which that I've never been to Nottingham, so that's really appealing all in itself. And it just, it's just a load of, meet a load of really, really super nice people. I'm just so excited to be there with everyone. And I would say as well, if you're new, because I was, a couple of years ago, before I went to a tournament, I was quite nervous about going to, oh God, there's going to be a room full of people that all know each other except me. Although I don't really know the rules very well. But it's not like that at all with Kings of War. People are so warm and friendly. And if you turn up literally not having played a game before, you will have a really good time. I absolutely guarantee it. So it's I wish I was going earlier, to be quite honest with you. It's incredibly warm and friendly, and I know Steve's going to do everything to make sure that we have just a really wonderful, magical weekend.
I'm going to try. We've got people from all over the world coming. It's really exciting, to have. We've got people from Colonel Gaddafi's coming from General Gaddafi, not Colonel Gaddafi. He's obviously not coming. General Gaddafi is coming
from Singapore.
I'm
so excited to see him again. He's such a great guy. He's such a great guy.
He's awesome.
Just a wonderful person.
Got several people from America, including the very, very famous and awesome Mark Zelinsky. We've got people from Austria, from France, from Germany, from Spain, and who come to win every time. We've got Netherlands. We've got Sweden. There's a guy on one of the videos I posted going, my son and I are coming from Sweden. We just decided, which was just like, that's just like mind blowing. It's really, really cool. There's even some people coming from like Wales, so.
Oh my goodness.
Scotland.
Jeez. And Clem, if we had fun last time, imagine how fun it'll be when we're not getting to the hotel at 2:30 in the morning with strict COVID regulations.
You mean after the car is stuck on the parking lot that is closed?
Yeah. We can't mess that one up. I rented a car for us, but then at some point just before we travelled, we realised that the car rental place is shut before I arrived, so before my flight landed. So I had to call them and get Clem to just go and get the car. So we put him on the insurance and everything, so he could just literally drive the car out of the parking lot that locks. So so things like that.
So that one too. I mean, I should not be allowed to drive in the UK. It's just insane that it's legal. But no, I meant was it Saturday when we parked the car in front of the venue and then went to a restaurant?
Oh, we got locked in. We got locked in at Firestore Games. Yeah.
And the car was locked in the parking lot. I was like, okay, well, I guess we have to get a cab now.
The taxi driver was very suspicious of our quote unquote lifestyle choices.
Yeah,
it was quite nice. He did say, could I go in there and play a game? Like, yeah, of course you could. Yeah, absolutely. It was very interesting. Anyway, so Clash of Kings, it's going to be great. Steve's organising it. We're very excited.
Yeah, and I mean, this time we have a hotel that's literally across the street, right? I hope there's still rooms in there for whoever might buy a ticket and join. But it's quite convenient to get also hosting in the area, which is so important when you travel from far away. So that's nice.
Yeah, it's one less thing to worry about, isn't it? That the hotel's so close.
Yeah, there's lots of hotels. I've got a shady Airbnb in like a dodgy part of Nottingham. But
it's always a shady B&B in a dodgy part of whatever town
really
you're staying,
shady.
Steve, I'm sure of it.
I know nothing about Nottingham. I'm like, really? You put one there? And I'm like, it was cheap, man. It's like £70 each. Brilliant. And they're like, yeah, I'm not surprised. So I may go missing between day one and day two, but it'll be fine.
Can I tell a brief work-related anecdote?
Please do.
So when I was still in the UK for quite a long time, I was working north of London. So I was staying in a hotel in the week and then driving back down south. And a very, very nice lady who worked, this Scottish lady, middle-aged Scottish lady who worked in operations. She had to go up for a couple of days, but the normal hotels we booked were booked up, were full. So I was helping her see if we could find another hotel for her to stay in, and I found one that just looked a bit strange. But I was like, well, there's just this one. And bless her, she was such a lovely lady, and it turned out to be essentially a brothel. So she had a night in a brothel, bless her, and and I saw her a couple of weeks later, and it was, how was your trip? Was it okay? And just her face, she was just crestfallen, Oh no, that was a disaster. There you go. Yes, exciting stuff. Anyway,
so at some point we will organize events with the Mantic Universe podcast, and it'll be a disaster. I think that's what you're saying, right? Don't let
buy
us
your tickets now. Funny enough,
Free
actually,
brothel with every ticket.
Yesterday, I've just been organising a stag do, bachelor weekend. So it's going to be in the Black Forest, but hopefully won't be that kind of a situation. We're not that kind of gang, to be honest. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I think that's it for Mantic.
No, Chris. I don't know if you want to move on. I mean, the last selling point for this is all this that you've just heard, the stories, being locked in the car park, etc. This is why you want to come.
Exactly.
Because you want to generate, you got to have these stories, right? So,
maximum excitement. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it should be a lot of fun. So everybody, I would encourage you to come. And, Steve mentioned board game night. If you're new and you don't know anybody at the tournament and you've played your games, come up to the bar and play board games with us. I mean, that's going to be a blast. So that's actually one of the things I'm really looking forward to as well. So, playing board games is my jam too. So I'm really looking forward to it. So
it's a great idea, Mark. Yeah. And I'd say, actually, I'd go as far to say that if you're on the fence about coming and you fancy it, you've never been before, you don't know anyone, just ping us on the Mantic Universe podcast Facebook group and just come and join us and play with us. You're most welcome. Cool, Steve. Have we plugged your event enough now?
100%. I really.
How much did we say? How much did we say in financial terms we get for?
It's a visit to that brothel that you mentioned previously, wasn't it? I think.
I'm out. It didn't.
I'm absolutely delighted, but. Like I said, I was working on that thing, right? When you do green stuff, there's always like some green stuff left over, right? And you roll it in a ball and you put it on the side. It's gone. So somewhere in this room is a ball of green stuff about this big. And I'm going to find it like 3 weeks squashed into something. It's on a shoe or something. Damn it. Anyway, come to Clash of Kings. I might have found my ball of green stuff by then.
Gun thrower things, bolt throwy things. Did you make them out of green stuff?
Yeah, because there's no models.
They weren't 3D printed. Wow.
No, it's 100% green stuffed. That it turns into that.
Feel 100% green stuffed. That's incredible. No, that's incredible. I mean, it really is incredible, Steve. That's
Thanks,
amazing.
Matt.
No, really,
it was green stuff looking, and the second one looks like a painted catapult. So impressive.
Which is also green, and not unlike green stuff, just with a bit of shading.
Like when you paint miniatures gray, like you go to the trouble of priming them and everything, and then paint them a very similar shade. Similar stuff.
Yeah. Maybe there's kind of like a new golden demon category that's like post-ironic model, deconstructed Asterion or something. Yeah. Good.
There you go. See, Steve, you're going to make us move into video now. So
as long as
everybody can see everything. Yeah.
We tried. I don't know if anyone listened to it. We did an unboxing review without video in the last episode. But I think it worked. I think it worked.
Yeah, I thought it worked fine. So yeah, absolutely.
Having Trent on there to ask questions definitely helped.
I think without someone to ask questions, it would have been probably a bit harder.
Says the man who made himself unavailable for said recording.
What?
Because it was Firefight. No one's interested. That's why.
Oh, Steve.
It was Deadzone.
Whatever.
Same thing.
I'm so not interested. Good. But actually, I mean, Mantic News, I mean, I know we've, dear listener, we've talked on and on, but actually we don't have as much this month as we have previous months, right? It hasn't been the avalanche of new stuff, which, to be honest, I'm quite relaxed about. One thing we can talk about. Did anyone, obviously Mantic had their spring sale. Did anyone get anything?
Yes.
No, I'm waiting for Adepticon. So there's going to be news at Adepticon, and they're going to be having lots of deals at the booth. So I'm just holding on to the dollars until Adepticon comes. But That's me because I'm going. But so, Clem?
I was actually tempted to get some of the surprise boxes. So I think I got one fantasy and one sci-fi and one terrain crate, I believe. Something like that. So it's looking forward to receiving it. I'm curious to see what they throw in the boxes.
I think I got one fantasy and 3 sci-fi. Oh, great news, dear listener. Steve's found
my green stuff.
Green stuff ball.
Like a green pea or a booger, who knows?
I have to do with it now.
Beautiful.
I was waiting for you to say Steve found his ball, but I saw the hesitation in your face, Chris. So.
I decided
We
to
try
keep
and
it
be
family
clean, but
friendly.
sometimes it's difficult, isn't it, to be fair? We are technically now explicit. Since, Steve, after you came on the first time, I felt like I could, in good conscience, I had to untick that box that said, no, we're clean, honestly.
Why am I to blame for everything?
Well, you tell me.
Well, filthy potty mouth, isn't it, really? That's why.
Well, it was all the talk about murdering people.
Really? Oh, no, God, I forgot about that. It was oh, God.
I mean, the bar is quite low, Steve, but let's be fair.
There's even a recording of it, Steve, if you want.
Yeah, I'll pay you to take it off. It's fine.
I'm listening. Oh, great. It's got to the point the podcast is so successful, people are offering me money to take it down. Perfect. Please stop. Good. So, good. On that note, dear listener. So, yes, I've got one fantasy mystery box. And I think I got very greedy, as I tend to, and got 3 sci-fi. Be really interested to see what turns up. But I must admit, I'm just hoping for a load of Maison Lab stuff, because I think I'll just get, the contents of the Star Saga box tipped up. And that's what I'm hoping for. Anyway, I might be wrong, but I hope so. And I also got the Trident Realm starter army for Armada. So I think I've actually got more Armada fleets now than I have actually played the game. But that's going to change. That's going to change, dear listener. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. I played twice and I have 2 fleets, so I'm good. I'm all good.
You're in the sweet spot, Clem. Yes, perfect.
There you go. So we'll be adding an Armada section to the pod. So.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's, just under Pannithor, we can do it. Yeah, absolutely. I could imagine us house ruling it though, so it doesn't go on for 8 turns. The game goes on for 6 turns, but we'll have to see.
I mean, we just need to get a bit more experience with it before we change it. But for now, I think my main issue with it is it just takes me too long to understand what's going on. But I guess after playing it seriously once, that maybe would change. I think also the companion doesn't have Armada rules yet, but
not yet, buddy.
It's in the making. I've asked about it. I think I've been told soon, with a smiley face. So hopefully soon. But I think that's about it, and we can move on to the next section, Chris. Or Steve, maybe you have something to say.
Yeah, I just remembered something. Did you guys notice in the newsletter before last, the reason they've not done the Armada rules yet, it was in the newsletter. Did you guys see that? It was right at the end. It was crushed in the newsletter. I don't think many people read it, but their STL releases are coming.
Yes.
Ooh. Wait, what? In which? So that's in the newsletter?
In the Mantic newsletter. Let's see if I can find it. I don't know if I deleted it or not. We'll see.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was hidden at the back of the newsletter. So, not that one.
You sure it wasn't in one of your secret emails?
Well, it was in one of those as well, but I saw it in the newsletter, which means I knew I could talk about it.
Now you can talk about it.
Right.
And with us, dear listener, it's going to be worth it.
It's worth it. There's too many Dungeon Saga ones to find out. In fact, if I just type in Mantic and STL, what's that going to happen? I think I might have deleted it.
Middle-aged men learning to use Google. Stay with us, dear listeners.
Spring sale. Here we go. And right, so the end of the spring sale email, which no one read. And if that isn't enough excitement, stay tuned, because next week we will start talking about our plans for official STL files. Yes, really. Revealing the very exciting future of Armada and sharing more sneak peeks of Dungeon Silent Origins. So they've officially
we missed
said.
that. Right. So glad that we got you on the show, Steve. We would have missed that one.
There you go, you see. Paid my salary again.
Another red ball. Green ball. Well, that's nice. But we haven't heard about it, though, right? Like they said next week, and that was 2 weeks ago. But yeah, it's coming soon.
Yeah, well, they also said they put Clash of Kings in the newsletter this week, and they didn't, so I'm just saying.
Just saying. Yeah, well, Adepticon's coming. Ronnie's not coming, though, so. But we'll be certainly trying to roll, Pat and stuff like that, and see if Community Pat will shake loose with some information. So, but I'm not sure. Do you know who's coming over, Steve, for Adepticon? Do you have insider information? Martin's coming? Okay, good.
Kyle will be there.
Oh, he's not from the UK, though. He's like practically my neighbor here in Ohio.
Yeah, he's the man. With his poor arm in a sling, I think, as well, because he's broken his arm. Horrifically broken it. But I think he's going to be there anyway. So, poor guy. Yeah, that's what I know.
The show must go on. And speaking of the show going on,
get on with it.
So let's move on to our Warpath. No, I was listening. No, sorry, I was just dear listener, just been messaged by Rob. Who will be joining the pod at some point. So just replying back to him. I was listening, everyone. Listening, very professional. So let's move on to our Warpath Firefight. I was quite happy actually to get messaged by the local guy who's bought an Enforcer's Strike Force, and then I haven't heard from him in months and months. But he messaged to say he hadn't forgotten and he's looking forward to playing. So that's good. So I reiterated, if you need me to help you build it, just let me know. Happy to do whatever I need to. So that was really good to hear from him. I did a box of Forge Fathers, the Forge Guard guys, the guys in the heavy armor, really cool models. Just as a bit of a fun little project. Oh, there we go. Mark's waving one in front of us now. Really fun to paint, really fun to, really easy to build. I think you've just got to make sure you put all the A's with A, all the B's with B, all the C's with C, and as long as you do that, you're okay. They're easy to build. So very much enjoyed that as a little project. So really enjoyed that. And I've started the slow process of doing my Matsudan. I think I've got about 6 new boxes of them because, as I mentioned a few episodes ago, I picked the load up in the Black Friday sale. So yeah, that's cool. So they're nice resin models. Clem, do you want to talk about Maison Labs at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was starting to look into it because obviously I'm gonna make an army with them. I finally got the Star Saga Kickstarter content. I bought it off of someone local. Because I didn't back it when it was coming out, and so now I have a bunch of Maison Lab stuff. I also bought some cyborgs because I asked on the Fanatics group what are people putting in their lists, and several people said cyborgs can do cool stuff, and looking at the profile, I think they would be pretty resilient and pretty interesting to play. And so I have a few things. I haven't started painting any of those yet. Like I'm more in a Kings of War push these days. I mean, list-wise, I'm still a bit unsure how to get the right mix between the experiments, so the plague stuff, and the Blackwing, so the GCPS stuff. But I mean, in my local group, we're like 3 active players, and it's like me with Plague or GCPS or soon Maison Labs, and then 2 Enforcers. And given how happy I have been lately with Enforcers, sarcasm, I think I'll just not worry too much about the list and make them a bit more narrative oriented, and try to see what cool stories we can tell with them. Because I think Maison Labs are really, really powerful in that department. And
And I think, to be fair, I think the rules committee know Enforcers are, a lot of people have said Enforcers are, and I've never played against Enforcers, so I don't know, but a lot of people have given that feedback that they're a little bit too strong. So I'm sure, much like Kings of War, but it will, these things will iron themselves out.
I think it will probably get updated at some point. But I mean, I still have my scary Please Beat Me list. That's a public list on the companion app with the Enforcers. It's like tournament-sized list. And I honestly don't know how to beat that list with something else. So, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't play the game. It's just you have to self-limit a little bit on a few things. And hopefully, I don't know when we will get tanks and stuff, but I guess we'll also get like a second round of the updates from the rules after the beta testing. And hopefully we'll get cool stuff.
I know people have called this Firefight second edition, but it's not, is it? It's other people have referred to it as a first edition, and that's where we are. So, there are things that will need ironing out. That's just the way it is, right? And still a super fun, great game.
Yeah, it's really still a ton of fun to play, and I still have a lot of fun with the miniatures as well. Like I think they're really nicely done. I like that the range is relatively complete. So it's lovely. It's just need to find a nice angle to play it locally, and I wish also more people would be playing it. I think for me, maybe scenarios would benefit from a small update or some sort of an extension, because in Kings of War I feel like there's like pretty clearly 3 big types of scenarios, and even within each big category of scenarios there are still differences, where like the different objective scenarios are not all exactly the same. And I haven't really gotten that impression yet with Firefight. Maybe I haven't played enough to really be able to tell. But somehow every time I set up a game and look at the scenarios, I end up playing the occupation. I think it's called, the dominate.
Is that the one, Clem, with the capital H? With the objectives laid out in a capital H.
No. It's that one is also pretty good. No, I
love that one.
That one we haven't played, but I think it's because we've played with 500 points, and with 500 points it's a bit too much. Like you don't even have that many units anyway
to hold down the points. Yeah. So when you play smaller games, maybe that's where also things start to fall apart a little bit. But we played 500 points. 750 as well, and when we look at the scenarios we end up let's play occupation, to the dominate equivalent, and it's a good scenario. I mean, I like playing this one, but I think with a bit more diversity would be more interesting. Maybe also we always play on my table, and my table has a specific set of terrain pieces, so maybe there aren't enough terrain pieces of special types, stuff like that. Like I don't have hills, I don't have forests in this map. It's a lot of difficult terrain and blocking terrain. Sorry, Clem, is this because you're playing it on UB?
No. I play on UB. You could do whatever you want, right? It's It's when I play at home with my own fantasy sci-fi table, like the Firefight table.
You don't have a forest. Interesting.
Because it's kind of like the theme is a factory, like a chemical plant or some sort. So big tanks and pipes and containers and stuff like that. And so, how do you really make a forest? It's not so obvious.
I mean, I would do it without trees. I mean, you could just put down one of your MDF things, and then you could put like steel girders or something like destroyed. Yeah, something like that would be cool.
Yeah, I think that might help. But again, I think maybe part of the feeling we've had also comes from the lack of proper pieces of terrain on the map. I don't know, but still a fun game.
I've done a fair few times rolling off and just sticking with it. Because I think, if I'm remembering this right, it's split between competitive and narrative scenario, which I really liked. And a couple of times I've gone, right, that's it. We're just doing a narrative one, rolled off. And I think it's called Hearts and Minds off the top of my head. And it's really fun. I mean, it's super swingy, but it's kind of the point, right? It's narrative scenario. So you've got a certain number of buildings on the map, and when we set it up, it was like we had a couple of food trucks and things like that. And it was we played the Forge Fathers against the Asterians on this planet, and basically what happens is you move a unit like a troop up to the food truck or whatever it might be, and you basically spend an activation to roll a dice, and on a 5 up you basically convince the people in the food truck to support you and go, okay guys, sure, here's some burritos, you robot Asterians are great, or you Forge Fathers are great, and you get a certain number of points. And it was really, really funny, but it's super swingy because I just had terrible luck with my dice rolling. So I think the first 4 times I rolled to try and, convince people to support me, I didn't get anything. But I think it ended up being a draw. So it was super, super swingy, but in the end, it was just hilarious. It was really, really fun. So yeah, have a look at the narrative ones. It's, it's a little bit bonkers. Cool. should we move on to Deadzone? I remember, of course, Steve doesn't play any of these games, so we're kind of we probably should have started with the Pannithor stuff, but we're in this now. So
I played Deadzone once.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, but as you say, you just don't have the space for more than one game.
I don't have. Did you listen? I listened to Chris Lynch's the UK Masters, his kind of like post UK Masters thing he was talking about, and he kind of said this. He said he kind of verbalized my thoughts about games, which is he only has the headspace for one game. Like with everything else in life, like to be able to play it at a good level, he's only got room in his brain for one game, and it's Kings of War. And I feel the same. I'm sure I'd like playing other games and stuff. It's just that life is busy, and because I'm so in Kings of War, I just don't.
No, absolutely makes a lot of sense. And it's you have picked a good game. If you're going to have one, if Kings of War, why not? Absolutely. Cool.
You could be just like us and use that as an excuse to be a bad player. I play so many things. That's
I'm not
why.
a great player. That's the irony there, Clem, is that I'm not a great player, but I still only have the space. I'm not Chris Lynch. I just still only have space in my head for one.
Yeah, but on your videos though, you talk a good fight though, Steve.
That's the trick. That's why I work in sales, buddy.
Exactly. Fantastic. Good. So I actually, based on the fantastic Rob Burman Asterian's short story that was on the website that I won't stop talking about, I actually made a list, the Asterian's list, and it is a Marionette Prime, who's in the story, 1, 2, 3 normal marionettes, as in with no rifles, a marionette with a grenade launcher, who's mentioned in the story, and then the sniper rifle, who was also there. I put in a cipher just to be a little bit different with a force rifle, a support drone with a twin no rifle, and a communications relay support drone, and then of course Otosora, who was kind of the hero in the story, who had anger management issues, and I played a game with that against my friend Dennis decided to play as the Asterians, and actually this was a little bit of a mistake I made because it's an all shooty list. There's nothing melee in there. And in the Asterians list, they do have a big robot with a sword and a shield, and they also have angry ladies called Kalishi who are really, really scary at fighting. But they weren't in the story, so I think that was a bit of a mistake, if I'm completely honest, because if you've got normal shooty army, Steve, it tends to either go really well or really badly. And he played against my Nameless, and so the sort of Cthulhu space monsters came out of the gloom and absolutely destroyed the robots. It was pretty brutal, to be quite honest with you. So I should have, in hindsight, again, I should have made a more balanced list. But then after that game, I recommended he change to the Forge Fathers, where I'd made a super, super elite list so it's 150 points, and he only had 6 models. And then I played as Maison Labs, and basically the same thing happened, where I just ate his very expensive dwarves. And they were delicious. That game was a lot closer, but still, I did something wrong there. Yeah. So I need to learn. But anyway, I had a really, really good time. I also I hope he did too. I also painted up my Plague General, which is a beautiful resin model that came in the new 2-player starter box.
Did you find your Plague?
I found my Plague. Oh, I also painted up so this whole time for my Maison Labs, I've been using one of the Vermin Nightmares as my Experiment 901 or whatever he's called. And I actually got, after 2 years of playing Maison Labs, I actually bothered to dig out the proper model, painted him up. So that's exciting stuff. Yeah, we're all very excited, dear listener.
Well, I mean, you said you lost your
yes, I couldn't find my massive box of Plague models. Yes, I found them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I spent about 10 hours this week just sorting through rubbish in the basement and trying to, it's still a mess, but it's much, much better than it was. So yes, all very exciting. Has anyone else played any other than Steve? Obviously, has anyone got any Deadzone comments this month?
I got close to playing Deadzone, but missed the. I think I cancelled a few days before because I managed my agenda. Things happen sometimes. There's also a Deadzone tournament, I think in May. It's near Nuremberg, right, Chris? I think, but you're busy that weekend, I think.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's actually pretty close to me. It's a real shame. We need to get in contact with those guys, actually, Clem, anyway, going forward.
Yeah.
But I think it's the weekend after I start my new job, and I'm on a team building event in Belgium, basically. So I just can't be in two places at once, unfortunately. It's a real shame because it's the first. I don't even remember seeing a Deadzone tournament in Germany. But we need to get in touch with those guys. Are you going to go, do you think, Clem?
I'm not too sure because it's quite a mission to go there from Berlin.
Get there. Yeah.
So could work, but I'll see how it goes when I get closer to the actual date. But also, like, it made us talk within the local group, like, hey, maybe we should also have an event and bring them over here to Berlin. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, maybe see if Trent's. Because it's not that far away from Trent either, actually. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's like a 3-hour train ride or something.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. So it's not that crazy.
Yeah, fantastic.
And for myself, I'm looking forward to getting in a demo or something like that at Adepticon. For me, Deadzone right now is a convention game. So I'll sign up for the events at Origins or something like that. Again, I'm kind of in Steve's camp with, one game, but I've got more than that, so which is why I'm lousy at everything. I'll play that card, but I've been working on Firefight lately, so we'll talk about that when Trent comes on. But I'm working on my Forge Fathers list for Adepticon, and I have lost my Iron Ancestor. I got to find it, so I don't know where he went.
We're excited to hear about that in the topic of the month tomorrow.
Absolutely.
As Mark found his Iron Ancestor. Steve.
Oh, no, I was going to ask about something, but then I realised it would take us wildly off topic, and it's nothing to do with Mantic. So I'm going to ask Mark about it when he comes to Clash of Kings, the excellent tournament in September 9th and 10th in the UK that you can buy a ticket for now. Only 13 tickets left, and the early bird runs out at the end of March. So I'm going to go back in my box now.
Steve, where can one go to buy such a ticket?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. You can go to clashofkings.uk. which has all the links for all the tournament information, including the travel pack and the tournament pack, and a link to the ticket page and some photo galleries from previous year. So. And
Steve, is it true that everyone that buys a ticket comes along is welcome to come to your house whenever they like?
Every person that comes gets one of my children for free. I've got enough to go around for all 150 attendees. You can choose which child you want. You can use them as slave labor or just murder them and eat them. It's fine. It's all free.
There was the E-tag again.
There was a point there where we went too far, but the thing is, you don't know you've gone too far until it's too late.
What I was going to point out was the absolute audacity of Mark suggesting he only plays one game. The man that literally plays, he's like, he plays every. Look, I think those boxes behind
look
you.
Look at the background there.
Exactly. They're just stacked upon stack, game after game after game. Don't you?
He says he plays one game, but it's not purchasing one game because I don't have the willpower or intelligence to not just go, well, that looks amazing, I'll buy that. It doesn't occur to me that I don't have the time to do these things. So the box arrives and then I go, oh wait, hang on, I already have 10 games I want to play and now I have 11. Oh well, never mind.
Mark, there's a campaign game you play. It's like a World War campaign game. It's like the most complicated campaign game you play.
Yes, that's Advanced Squad Leader.
Squad Leader, ASL, that's what you play.
The 400 threaded rule pages of ASL. Yes, I go to the tournament every year. It's actually in Cleveland. It's an international tournament. It's kind of like the Clash of Kings for ASL. And so it is here. It's about 20 minutes from my house, which is good because it's 20 minutes from my house. It's bad because it's 20 minutes from my house because I work, I got the family, and it's easier for me to go away for a tournament. So, which is why it's exciting to go to Clash of Kings. Another selling point for you, dear listener, if you're looking or on the fence about coming for the tournament. If I've got a local tournament, I'm getting phone calls, somebody's stopping up at the hobby shop. It just never works out great for me. So, but do I fly to Texas for Lone Wolf? Yeah, absolutely, and have a great time. So we're taking Lone Wolf this year and shifting it to Nottingham. So I'm very excited to be over there at Clash. So
Lone Wolf's definitely on on one of my bucket
that's
lists.
a blast. Absolutely.
There's a few because I was supposed to go to America this year, and that obviously didn't happen for various reasons. I ran out of money, apart from anything else. But I've I'm floating the idea with my wife that maybe I could go to America next year for a tournament, but I can't decide which one to go for. And there's so many, and there's just it's tough.
I must admit, I'd love to go to Adepticon. It won't happen this year or probably next year, but I would at some point. I would like to go to Adepticon in Chicago.
You need to take your big wallet. The amount of stuff I bought that I've still got a box in my cupboard right next to me here. I'll shake the box rather than get it out, which is full of stuff I haven't even opened. It's still in the packet. One of them is from Creature Caster. If you know anything about Creature Caster, you know how expensive that might. It's so expensive. I'm too terrified to put paint on it. I just got carried away. Got carried away with a credit card. Nightmare. Beautiful model.
We do have, and this is an idea Clem had. We do have a topic of the month coming up, dear listener, which is all about not buying stuff, not spending money. So, Steve, we might have to get you on there. It's the,
as the counter example.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we've all been there when we've spent more money, and maybe buying things for the wrong reasons as well. I'm terrible at that,
I don't wish to offend any of you, but you are not the people to talk about not spending money on miniature gaming.
I don't know what you're talking
the
about.
Shelf in the background there, yes. Yes.
So this is Addict 101.
Outrageous thing.
Why is the professor so twitchy in the corner there? Why does he look so pasty and pale? Yes,
I'm saving up for retirement, guys. So see, that's it. See, so one day, this will all become valuable, and I'll have lots of time on my hands. So.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I keep telling myself, at least. So.
Right. So, we still have Steve. Steve, we're on the Pannithor. We're on our Pannithor.
I was just about to sign out. All right, Karen, let's do this.
Yeah. So
tell us all about your stuff.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go for it.
What am I?
Kings of
what are you painting these days? Have you played in games?
Painting. What are you building terrain?
All of my hobby time recently is because I'm not just running Clash of Kings. I also run my own tournament, and that's next weekend. So I've just been finishing all the prep for
the Birmingham Bull Run.
Bull Run. That's right.
Is it sold out?
Yeah. So it was sold. I oversold that. By mistake.
Wow. Okay.
I had to make it on the table. So what I've been doing is finishing up the terrain for that event, and I've tried to I tried to do it really, really nicely. So I've been doing stuff like cutting out some black templates to go underneath all of the walls, so that when you get your miniatures on the wall and it's falling off, you can just take the wall off and there's a black template there, so you know where it is. And you can just about see behind my head. You probably can't see. You see it back there. There's a head with Yoda on it. And this is not for the people who are listening, obviously, and then next to it, there's this weird white stuff just about here. That's some snow terrain that I've just finished doing for one of the boards there. So that's what I was doing, and was putting that snow terrain together, and then stuff like this, the scoring sheets. And do you want to see the top prize? Let me show you the top trophy. Just for, I can whip it out of this thing here. This is the top trophy. Which is a helmet with a crown on it.
That's incredible, Steve. That's absolutely amazing.
It's a helmet. And I'm making a bunch of other trophies. And so just doing the stuff for my tournament. I love doing that. Really exciting. Just making sure that it's all ready, getting all my mats out and all that kind of stuff. And then I just need to finish the Gungans, which is my goblins. I've got 1 miniature left, which is that catapult we were wanging on about earlier. And then I start on my Empire of Dust, which I've got an idea for. I've also toying with the idea of doing an entry for Brush with Death. You know about Brush with Death? So that's the Mantic painting competition.
Yeah.
And they get, you wouldn't believe how few entries they get. So, you people think, I never have a chance doing that. No way. Honestly, you will have a chance if you have a go at it. Like my friend Matt entered, and I think one of the categories, he was possibly the only entrant. The part of his stuff was beautiful, and he's won a few times, and it's a big prize. You get a lot. And with brushes, it's like 50, I think it's £50 voucher or something like that, or it has been in the past. I don't know what it is this year, but so I'm toying with the idea of doing some Brush with Death entries. There's one at Adepticon for our North American friends.
And he's got 2 chances, right? He's got 2 chances. I think I'll enter in my Idol of Showbic because it's the model I'm most proud of. I'm really proud of it. I don't think I'll win, but I would like people to look at that and go, not bad, kid.
I had a really, because my Empire Dust list hasn't got an Idol of Shobik in it, and it hasn't got a monolith in it either. But at the moment, it's going, no, what am I thinking? I'll play it a few times and they'll go in.
Are you sure you've got the army name right, Steve?
No.
Oh, wait, it's Forces of Nature.
Yeah, but I have got 2 of the reanimated behemoths in it because I really like them. But obviously, they don't make a miniature for that. So I was going to have a Shobik coming out of the monolith. Like I was going to have the monolith splitting and I was going to sculpt some flames. But then I got the monolith and it's just a massive piece of. Have you seen it? He says.
I've got it. No, got it. Painted it.
Yeah, so it's just this big old piece of resin that kind of
chunk of resin. Big old chunk of resin.
So I can't really. It's not quite what I planned. So I don't really know what I'm going to do now. So that was my idea to.
Could you cut it? Could you cut into it at an angle to create the angle to get some flames coming off of it?
The thing is, because it's already breaking apart, isn't it? It's really nicely sculpted, all this kind of breaking apart with these flames. So I'd have to cut across there and then sculpt more flames. It's possible. That's an idea, actually. You've reignited the idea, but it's really solid resin, and I'm a bit nervous about. I've got a really nice fine-tooth saw that you can use for cutting resin,
and hopefully a mask.
Yeah, I got lots of
that stuff, please.
But then I'm also cutting into quite an expensive model to ruin it just for giggles.
Yeah, but to be fair though, Steve, your determination to prove everyone wrong for some reason knows no bounds. So
indeed,
it says the man who was just green stuffing Gungan catapults, successfully. Like, it's the fact you pull it off though, Steve. You take the joke too far, but somehow you pull it off. It's extraordinary.
I'll give it
my hat's off to you.
Another thing the other thing I was doing was finishing off my because my ringer list for the tournament is Varanga. So I'd ripped off. I'd made some old the Cyclops, the Thunder Seers in Riftforge Orcs.
Yes.
I had some 3D printed Thunder Seers that were Cyclopses, and I've replaced them with Mantic ones for my Mantic army. And I'd used their base for something else. I think Mincermob. So I had to rebase. So these are my old Thunder Seers, which are now going to be Snow Trolls for my Varanga.
They look great. They look great though. They really do look great.
Nice, they're very nice models.
Very talented painter, Steve.
It's a very simple technique that I stole off Chris Walsh that makes you look better than you are.
No, I believe you, but I think 60% of painting is.
Yep. So that's a nice unit. I'm quite pleased with that. It turned out quite nice. But my Varanga list is like 4 of my armies, just units from all of them plucked out and stuck in. And then I also.
You picked a nice easy army for the ringer to play as well.
Yeah, just push forward, right?
Yeah, just.
So my friend Chris is coming. Chris, who is UK Master, and he's using my orcs. He's just playing orcs. So I had to glue my slasher back to his base because he'd fallen off. So that's my dude on what's he called? Crusher on wing slasher.
Yeah.
Model.
I have to assure you, dear listener, that's a beautiful. Steve? Could you maybe put some pictures up on the Mantic Universe Podcast Facebook group?
Yeah. When you post the episode, I'll stick some pictures in the old description then.
Did you do any Zenithal priming or anything like that?
Yeah. So they're all Zenithal primed, and then like the slap chop method is where you Zenithal prime it and then you just like dry brush highlights on. It's like that, but a bit fancier. So you Zenithal prime it and then you ultra Zenithal it. So you then go back over it with Wraithbone and back over it with pure white, all the way up to the top. Then you contrast it. And then I use glaze medium instead of water. So people that use oils talk about how nice they are to use. So I use glaze medium for the same reason, so that you get quite nice blends with it. I don't know if you can see on this shield, you get quite a nice contrast transition. You can see there. I'm just going to find a better. So the skin on these guys, again, I'll put this on the Facebook page. But you can see how the skin here is quite nicely. You can't see the transition between paints. So glaze medium allows you to do that blend transition, that wet blending really, really finely, which makes the painting look better than it is.
Are you mixing that into the... Well, you say that, but it is skill. It's a skill to do that. Are you mixing that into the paint?
Yeah, so instead of using water, when you thin your paints, Duncan Rhodes, like add a drop of water to your paint. Instead of that, you use glaze medium instead of water. The paint doesn't dry as quickly, so it's a lot more mobile. So when you put it on your model... You can then blend it and it doesn't dry straight away and you don't get any lines.
You can work it over a larger surface area in the same time.
Medium. The one I use is Vallejo's glaze medium. It's really nice.
I find Vallejo, I find all their stuff great. I think people complain about one of their line of paints, but I always find them brilliant. I think model color, or I don't know. But I find Vallejo stuff amazing.
I said it also, what I found with glaze medium is it makes Army Painter paints good, because Army Painter paints in general have got I find them horrible if you use them with water. Put a little bit of glaze medium and suddenly they flow and they're really nice. I mean, I used mainly GW, but the few Army Painter paints that I had, like they were fixed by glaze medium. So that's the trick, really. Yeah. So, and then you just highlight up, and really, really, really high highlights all the way up to white, and don't use any metallic paints.
My friendly local game store only has Army Painter paints, so I might actually.
They're cheap, they're cheap and cheerful, but a tiny drop of you have to get the quantity right. It's a small amount, but you add a little bit, and it's a really nice effect. And I'm not an expert painter by any means, but this technique has worked really well, and I've been lucky enough to win a few awards with it, so it definitely works.
But that's why, Steve, I find this so compelling and interesting, because I think you're actually more talented than you say you are, but you are an everyman painter. So you being able to show these stunning results is, hang on a second, there's something here that we can all learn from. So I think we need to listen to you more on this, Steve. To be honest,
I've been toying for ages with doing a series like painting for painting miniatures for painters who aren't very good at painting. It needs a snappier title, I acknowledge. But I don't think it's for bad painters. It's for like sort of mediocre tabletop painters. Your average
how to elevate it.
Guide to painting. Yeah, something like that. I think it would make it really. It's painting isn't as hard as people make out, I think, and you can get really nice results, and you shouldn't really settle for it'll do, because you can get things that look really good.
I think to be Duncan Rhodes, it's a talent. He's unbelievably talented. But I think you're right, Steve. To get to a certain level, it's a learned skill that people can just practice and get better on, and learn these little steps that you're suggesting.
I think that's a podcast episode in and of itself, which is I think art is of talent. I think painting miniatures is, like you just said, exactly a learned skill. It's a technique-based approach. Okay, your eyesight is a big thing. So if you've got really poor eyesight, that can hurt rather. But actually, anyone can learn to paint miniatures really very nicely with some techniques. It doesn't matter if you're cat-handed, can't tell blue from green. It doesn't matter. You really can learn to paint.
I agree, Steve. Sorry, Clem, go for it, buddy.
No, I'm just saying. Whenever I talk with beginners, like people, when I organize events or something like this, someone come over and have a look at miniatures and say, "Oh, that looks interesting," and they want to get started with it. It's easy to buy a box, and then we tend to forget, because we've assembled so many models and we've painted so many models, even poorly, for quite a long time. But it's quite overwhelming to assemble your very first model and paint your very first model. So, I mean, we've talked about it in the past already, but the ambush boxes for Kings of War are really amazing value and really amazing idea. But I think to make them really even more successful for the target audience, we also need some good content from you, Steve. Like, okay, I just bought a Forces of the Abyss ambush box. What do I do now? Like, what's the next step? And literally take my cutter and some glue, and this is how you build a model. And then this is how you paint to a decent first step, like first miniature painted ever. And to show this, I think is quite important to help the beginners, because a lot of the content that you find online is just insane levels of quality, right? Like I see tons of painting videos. I'm like, I've been painting miniatures for 20 years, but I don't do that 8 hours a day, so there's no way I can do this. And it's nice to watch, and maybe I can take one idea here or there, but otherwise it's quite useless, I think, for complete beginners. I think there's some work on our side in that department.
All right, Steve, I got a title for you. We'll call it 3-color minimum.
Nice, I like it.
3 paints, 1 cup.
Yeah, just paint 1 color.
What about, oh my god, Adepticon is in 3 days and I haven't painted my army yet?
That would be Colin Zielinski. Yes, I have been catching you up on what I've been doing. I've been building an undead army, so not for myself. So I have got super glue over like everything. So, but I just finished up doing some Soul Reaver infantry, and I just glued a whole bunch of Revenant Cav together, and boy, he is just painting away upstairs. So we'll see if he makes it.
Mark's been saying for weeks and weeks and weeks that his son has not left himself enough time to get his army ready.
Yeah, he keeps scooping off. But then again, he's on the esports team at his college, and he is number 1 in his division. So all that time wasted on Mario Kart has paid off. But, he's doing really well on that. As a matter of fact, his coach is requiring him to play while we're at Adepticon. So I got to find a place for him to do his esports match while we're out there. So, but he is currently number 1 in his little junior college division there. So very proud of him. But as far as painting, yeah.
Is his game Mario Kart?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He's playing Mario Kart. So
much like Kings of War, because I occasionally play Halo. Played on Tuesday. I'm really rubbish at Halo. I've been playing that since Halo 1 came out. I'm really rubbish. It's sort of like, oh, let's blunder over here. Oh, there's someone I have to shoot. Oh, no, they killed me. Oh, no. And then I fire ineffectually. I'm not getting any better at it, I'm still just as rubbish as I ever was.
Yeah. I just wonder what happened to the world, and suddenly we've got an esports Mario Kart league at college level. What?
Yeah, absolutely. They play Super Smash Brothers, and I can't get the whole list. He's at work, or I would bring him down. But it's crazy. They even got T-shirts and regular in the college store and everything. Esports is big now.
It is. I mean,
I'm just imagining. Sorry, Clem. I'm just imagining an esports podcast where they're going, "What, people play tabletop games? That's so weird and nerdy." And there's us going, "Esports." Sorry, Clem, I cut you off. Sorry, buddy.
No. Just saying, it is really big now. Like they fill out stadiums of supporters and spectators. And my boss actually bought an esports team, like a pretty large team, and it's like running it kind of on the side, like is being the boss just for fun. I think like he doesn't need the money, but his actual thing that he's really into is like running the esports team. And so it's. I was born too early, I think, because
it's time to ask for a pay rise, Clem, is what I'm saying.
yeah, maybe.
Oh, that or a transfer to the running the esports league. So,
Steve, is there anything? I appreciate you joined us on the Sacred Mother's Day. Is there anything you need to share with us before you go?
No, my wife's a saint, and I need to go and appreciate her on Mother's Day.
But she's not your mother, though, is she? Let's be fair.
No, she is the mother of my child, though. That's very specific.
That's fair. But, surely it's for your children, too.
He's 6, buddy. He's... he
can only do so much.
He only cares about playing Minecraft Dungeons. That's what he cares about right now, let me tell you, which is a terrible game. No, it's all good. I'm just very happy. I'm looking forward to next weekend. Looking forward to the end of the early bird. Looking forward to doing a bit more painting. I haven't done any painting. We're going to... And then... I've not got a lot. We've got next week, and then one more week, and then we're off to visit my wife's family in China for a couple of weeks, which is really exciting. And so I won't have any gaming at all. So I'll come back fully starved of gaming and very much ready to roll some dice. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I think.
You've got plenty of time to read some read all the novels, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I can read some. Yeah.
Rise of the Celestians.
I should get that. Is it out? Is it out in actually? I like a physical book. I can't do ebooks. I need a book that I can hold in my hands. So
I think it's out. So I do believe. I will chase Brandon and we'll find out for you, Steve.
Yeah, I could just look on his website if I'm honest.
There you go. I understand that, but it's more fun to bug him. So
I'm sure he's got loads of time. Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate your time and thanks for having me on again. And hopefully I talked a bit less this time.
No, that's not what you're on, Steve. Is That's your thing. Come on, buddy.
My wife describes me as overbearing in her less charitable moments.
You have a great evening, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Love
great
you guys.
Fun as always.
Cheers, Steve.
Check the recording carries on after I leave. Just wanted to remind you.
Oh, thank you ever so much.
And we're still here.
Still here, recording. That's good.
Is it still recording? Yeah, there we go.
Still recording.
Woohoo. Did you say that Rob was joining us so pretty soon?
I think so. Yeah. Hopefully he has been responding to messages. So I think he's going to just drop on at some point, and we can ask him about the ascent of the Goblin King. I think. Yeah, fantastic. But no, I mean, I know we're trying to sell the last 13 tickets, but genuinely, we're really excited for Steve's tournament, right? Clash of Kings. It's going to be fantastic. I'm certain of it.
Yeah, I mean, you could also hear how much Steve loves Kings of War, right? And so he's gonna do a really amazing job to make it a special weekend. So yeah, no, I'm super excited about it.
And in terms of Pannithor, so I've just done the first couple of units. I've just wanted to, so my EOD stuff, I'm really, really happy with how it looks. But I just rushed it a bit when Gad was on the train to come and see me. So he was on the train, so I was like really trying to finish the units to play with him. So I'm just going back. That's the army I'm pretty sure I'm going to take to Clash of Kings now in September. So I just want to go back and just make sure I have a good looking army to take, because I'm really proud of it, and I'm looking forward to showing it off. It's all Mantic, and yeah, I think I'll enter the Idol of Shobek in Brush with Death. I don't have any realistic chance of winning, I think, but I'm proud of it, and I want people to look at it. It's a great model.
Did you know what the conditions are? Like, what's the pitch for Brush with Death?
So I think there was a recent Countercharge podcast where they broke down the different sections.
That one yet.
So I think it's split between Pannithor and Warpath universes, and I think it's something like, and I'm sure Mark will correct me, but I think you can have those categories for like, single model, which could be a, Titan, War Machine, Hero, something on a 40mm base or whatever. Then there's regiment categories. So there's loads of different categories. For Warpath, it can be like a unit. I think a unit of up to 10 models or something like that. So there's basically whatever you want to paint. So anything in your army you're really proud of, there'll be a category for it. So if you've got a lovely unit of enforcers, just get them out when the time comes. And I think it's really important, even if I don't think my Idol of Shobek will win, but I'm really proud of it, and I think it's really important we just go, yeah, do you know what? I'm proud of that. I'm putting that forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you approach like a painting competition, not as I don't have any chance to win it, so why participate, but more as a, hey, let's all send out our best painted model, even if we're not a great painter or whatever it is, like even if it's my second model ever. And then we just get to see cool pictures of cool Mantic models. I think it's worth it. But so, do you know when is the deadline to submit entries?
No.
Okay, we know. So that's us. That's how we are. I'm sure the deadline is at some point. Maybe it was last week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the one for Clash of Kings is going to be at Clash of Kings if they're having it.
I would have thought so. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I mean, it was. There was a painting contest, Clem, if you remember, in Cardiff. And Carl Pretzel Twinkie spent a long time looking at my Ector model, which I was very proud of. But it looked quite nice, but it was a simple paint scheme. But bless him, he took the time, which I was really stoked about that. To be honest, I was really happy. So I think you just bring a model, model in your army as usual, and
yeah, absolutely. Well, here are the categories for Adepticon 2023. So fantasy single model. This is any fantasy model that fits on a 40mm square base or less. Fantasy unit. This is any troop, regiment, or horde. The unit must meet the minimum number of models, which is nice. Thank you, minimum model count, per the Kings of War rules. And it can also be a 100-point war band per the Vanguard rules, or a 150-point fleet for Armada. So you've got some flexibility there on what you want to enter in for fantasy unit. Then they have fantasy monster and war engine. This is any fantasy model that fits on a 50mm square base or more. Then they go into sci-fi for sci-fi single model. It's any single sci-fi model that fits on a 40mm round or less. Sci-fi unit, any unit that meets the minimum number of models and base size per entry in the Firefight rulebook, or must be a 100-point strike force per the Deadzone rules. Sci-fi massive infantry or vehicle. This is any sci-fi model that fits on a 60mm base or more. So those are the categories.
So I found the post for the Brush with Death for 2023. It's 13th of October. So there's actually plenty of time to prepare an entry for the. So it's not even just Clash of King, right? Because Clash of King is early September. So I think it's for the year.
Try and get that in the show notes, dear listener.
Yeah, so they have a separate day for it then. Cool.
Yeah, so there was a post on the Mantic blog mid-February. So it's for the Autumn Mantic Day, open day in October. That's the target date for it. That's pretty cool. I think you guys have convinced me to actually send an entry or two. Let's see.
Do it, buddy. Do it. Yeah. I'm even thinking, to be honest, I might just bring, if I've got room in my army box, I might just bring a Spectre or something. There's a couple of sci-fi models that I'm really happy with. I don't think they'll win again, but it's kind of not the point, to be honest. It's a celebration of all things Mantic, and that's kind of what we're about, really, isn't it? So fantastic. Really exciting stuff. Cool. Mark, any other Kings of War stuff to touch on?
Well, I'm just getting ready for Adepticon, so we'll talk about that a little bit more. But so I've got Kings of War is it, along with my Firefight army for the Forge Fathers, but it's all been about painting and stuff like that. I'm going to bring my orcs, so they're already painted. I'm just going to have to put a list together. No, I have not put a list together yet. I've been busy helping Colin with his army, getting his list together, and he's painting a whole new army. So we'll see if he can make it. So it's all about getting him out the door. And, we're leaving on Wednesday this week. So just a couple more days and we're out of here. So we'll see.
That's being a good dad. That's being a good dad, Mark.
Are you getting psychologically ready to play 2,300 points?
Yeah, because the idea is to take this army, this 1,000 points that for the team tournament, and then we're going to put it in the countercharge, build it up to 2,300 by the end of the year painting challenge. So he's going to do that, and that is because I have a ton of undead models here in the basement. So it's like, Colin, just go for it. Build a very modern, competitive 2,300 point list so you can play anywhere. And that way you won't have to be painting at the last second if we go to a tournament. So that's the goal.
Sadly, he didn't hear any of that because he was busy playing Mario Kart.
Oh, yeah. Well, Mario Kart has its special charm. He's at work right now, so he can't hear anything. So, but no, it's all Kings of War. I'm really having a real renaissance with it. Just building more armies and stuff like that. I'm probably going to grab one of my 500-point armies and bring it for Brush with Death. You guys have convinced me to do that. Rob and Jeremy convinced me to get into tournaments this year at Adepticon. So it's going to be a completely different experience for me this year.
I think we were saying, Clem, looking at this year, 2023, I think we agreed it's going to be like 2022, but just more. We want to play more, it's just
pretty much
do more stuff. Yeah, take it to the next level kind of things. That speaks to that, Mark. Super. And I think, Clem, you've got a ton of stuff you want to talk about, so I'm just going to put myself on mute.
You wanna go and grab a beer or something?
I'm going to go look for my Iron Ancestor for a second. So, I'll be right back. I can't wait to listen to all this. So, Clem, you've got a lot there, buddy.
Yeah, so first of all, what I've been doing for the hobby side is painting Varangos, but like small guys, like 10 mil Varangos. I just love those models, super fun to paint them, and I had relatively low painting energy, so they were a good excuse to get back to it. In the other breaking news, I received the parcel from the Mantic point orders that I've mentioned a few times. It arrived last Friday, actually, so now I have to sort through it and send the miniatures to everyone who participated to this group order. But yeah, no, otherwise I've been playing a bunch of Kings of War on UB the past couple of weeks. It's kind of like trying to understand how my army list works, which I think people do that usually before they paint and assemble the army. But now it's the list is all done. Like I'm already starting to build the custom transport case for it. But I still thought it'll be interesting to play it against a ton of different opponents and see how that one works in different contexts. So yeah, I played a bunch of games with my Salamanders, so it's the 2,300 point list. Still the same list. I think I mentioned it in the previous pods, with a horde of ceremonial guards, 2 troops of ancients, 2 mage priests with surge, 2 greater fire elementals, 2 hordes of fire elementals, an ancient phoenix, and 4 regiments of scorch wings, and a skylord, or what's his name? Gekota skylord something on scorch wings.
That's
yeah, and I mean, that's kind of it's literally my list, Salamanders version 1.0. That's the first thing I came to, because I wanted to have both surge and fast and nimble elements. And I'm actually quite happy with it, because the more I play it, the more I understand how it works, and it also fits my play style quite well. Some of it is a bit more challenging because the fire elementals and the ceremonial guard are relatively slow, and also they should really be a bit more conservative than what I usually am. But the scorch wings I can throw them forward, and that satisfies the orc in me that just wants to run forward and charge and fight. But yeah, so I played against some Basilians at some point, with someone who last time we played on UB got like 4 real charges against me. It's just like when it was with dwarves, it's like just insane, like a really much better player than I am. But it's and so he destroyed me last time. But I thought it's actually interesting to play again with him if he's willing to spend some time with a not so good player, because you learn a lot. Like you see some movements that you didn't expect at all. I didn't think were possible, or some combos and like some positioning, and it's actually really interesting. You know, it's like when you watch a game of soccer. I don't really do that so much, but even if I don't play soccer at all, I used to as a teenager, you can still see that, those guys really play extremely well, and there's some beauty to it. And so playing against someone really good, I think even if you lose the game, there's still some interesting part to it. Like, you learn new tricks.
I mean, people say that that's the best way to improve, is to play with someone who's better than you, because you will get better. I've done that with playing squash and things like that. The best way to improve is to play someone who's quite a bit better than you are.
Yeah, because obviously, like, they challenge you in a different way, right? Like, they show you new tricks, or put you in difficult situations that make you think harder. And especially, like, the guy was also super nice after the game. Like, we chatted a little bit more. Like, he gave me some feedback on my list and on how to play the game. But so that one, I was also happy because I think I played it really well. And it's just a dice.
Can you summarize what it was exactly that he did that was so interesting? Is it easy to summarize for our dear listeners?
Not really. So it's kind of always planning a turn or two in advance in a way. And sometimes, like, I saw him move some units and it was like, well, that's nice. Like, he didn't take this charge here, like he didn't see that one, and so I got away with this thing. And then a turn or two later, you realize, oh no, he actually was positioning for what I was logically about to do 2 turns later. And so it's not just always reacting to what's going on right now, what's going on in the next turn. It's also thinking what's going to happen in 2 turns and 3 turns, and like just getting in some charges that thinking are not possible, like especially with nimble heroes like monsters, or individuals on cavalry, like speed 10 individuals. You can get crazy stuff done that if you're not used to, you just don't see. And that sometimes can make a difference, right? Like, it's just an individual, but then it adds maybe 5 or 7 attacks if it's a good individual to a charge that you thought, okay, I'm going to take a double charge maybe here, but I should be able to survive it. Like, you do the math in your head in a way. And then suddenly there's another individual that comes out of nowhere that you didn't see coming, and that just pushes the math in the right direction for your opponents. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to. It was also a game quite a while ago, but yeah, I think it's really about really smart positioning, not for just the turn that's coming, but for the ones after that. Yeah, the other thing is he played a very aggressive Basilian list with 2 hordes of Elohes, the Elohe hero, something I really liked as well, like 2 Phoenix. Oh, Phoenixes. I don't know how you say it. What's the pro form? But really impressive shooting platform. Really nice. Makes me want to switch to this, but I can't take 2 of them in my list. My list wouldn't be legal anyway. Otherwise, like I would need to change more stuff, and I don't want to. But yeah, very, very interesting game. I'm still quite happy because we played Plunder, so the one with 5 tokens on the center line, and you choose which one are worth 2 VPs. And I think I made a good choice there.
I feel like, sorry, Clem, I feel like that's probably not bad a scenario for your army.
Potentially, yes. He took one, not the center token, not the one against the edge, but another one, like the one in the middle. And so I took the one against the board edge. And so it basically, my strategy was I'm just going to protect those 4 VPs. And my army, woohoo! Mark found the model. My army can kind of take a punch quite well and defend, take a defended position. And so I'm going to do that for those 2 VP, the 2 VP tokens, and that will give me the game. And it actually almost worked. Like you said, yeah, you really played it really well at the deployment stage and the placing, even just the placing the objectives on the table. Made it like he struggled the whole game basically to catch up, and he still won in the end, but it was kind of because dice were hot toward the end.
But you gave him a good game.
Gave him a good game, yeah. No,
and this is the guy who was charging dwarves into your rear, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
In a previous game, so
it was slightly
quite the improvement.
I was a bit more cautious this time, I think, as well. But yeah, no, it was quite interesting. Also, yeah, I didn't mention it, but we did play by email, so you have also more time to think your turn. Because you just save the file at the end of your turn and send it to your opponents, and then you receive a file and you have to play your turn, and you can take as long as you want to think about it and even redo it if you change your mind or realize you could have done it in a different way. So that's also, I think, a good opportunity to think about, okay, what do I want to do with my army? Yeah, then I played against Herd. It's quite a scary list with 2 hordes of centaurs. And I didn't realize that those guys really punch really, really hard. So, yeah, it was... I kind of got into the game it's going to be an easy one in a way, it was a slightly less.
Sorry, Clem, was this against the same opponent or is this different?
No, different people. So I kind of went in a bit open-minded, let's say, and turn 2 and 3 were really hard. I mean, that's what happens against Herd. Many Herd lists that just come and punch you hard. But I managed to come back from the dead ultimately, but still quite an interesting game. Then I played also a couple of games against a Kingdom of Men player, also with a relatively aggressive list, a pretty good list, I think, with a horde of cavalry, a horde of beast cav, a bunch of infantry as well, which I like. I like armies that have tons of models on the table, although it's UB. But some fanatics, some pikes, some foot guards, some bowmen, and bunch of heroes on cavalry, and 3 war engines as well. So that's quite a scary list because it does have a lot of unit strength on the table. It does have some fast stuff. It does have some shooting. So we played twice, and I think in the first game I managed to have his horde of cavalry kind of run around and do not much, and ultimately I got that one. But for the second game, he played a lot more aggressively. And also, he had the unique hero that lets you redeploy some units. And he kind of tricked me at the deployment phase, and he deployed very, very dense on one flank. And I didn't expect him to do that. And so really punched hard through my front for this. We also had a fun multi-charge situation. I don't know if you've seen on Fanatics. There was a discussion about like a horde charged by one of my greater fire elemental. So it's a tiny square base against a big horde of infantry. And I thought, I'm safe. He can't bring in like a horde of Biscav to the flank, because there's no way he could reach it. Like, they are not nimble. But actually, he said, no, I actually planned that and reread the rules. And now with the changed multi-charging rules, you can a lot more easily get more units in contact. And that second game, he just completely destroyed me. I thought turn 5 that I could still save it and maybe get a draw or even win it with good dice. And then his turn 6, so he started playing. His turn 6, his shooting went extremely hot, and he popped both of my hordes in one phase of shooting. Like, they had like 4 wounds each, and still popped them. So it's quite insane. But I played also against Undead. I played against Halflings. I played a bunch of games on UB2. I think I like it. It's something different than playing on the table with actual miniatures. And I know you, Chris, you tried it a couple of times, and you're like, not really for me. But
maybe I haven't given it a fair chance, though, to be fair, Clem. I mean, if you remember, it was years ago I played. I think it was during COVID. You were kind enough to try and teach it to me. And I think I took a Sylvan Kin list. It was that long ago. I was thinking I was going to be playing Sylvan Kin. And I basically just sort of alpha striked you stupidly. I think it was your ogres.
Yeah, I think you were like, I can scout, so let me move everything. I can scout as far as I can forward.
Exactly.
And I just picked them out one after the other, and that didn't go well. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's so now I only have 2 games going on, but at some point I had like 3 or 4. I don't know. I think it's an interesting thing, to play with different people, different scenarios, different armies.
But it sounds like you're learning a lot about your army as well as the other armies, right, Clem? I think it's
absolutely.
making you a better player. I would theoretically love to play more on UB, and maybe I should give it a try. But honestly, when push comes to shove with limited time, I would honestly rather be painting something. But I should find the time to do it, because I feel like it would make me a better player. But
yeah, it's really up to you. It's also, I think I didn't feel like painting, and I wanted to play more, and so UB was a good way to do that, because it's always harder to organize games in real life, Whereas when you play by email like this, literally, if you find 20 minutes or less with your opponent, you can do the deployment, because doing deployment by email is also possible, but it takes a lot longer because you go back and forth. Like, usually what I've done, you deploy 2 units at a time, 2 units each, but you still will take like 5 or 6 back and forth, right? And so if you take 10 to 20 minutes to go through setup of the table, deployment, and that's it. And from there, well, you just save it, and then whenever you have some time, you just play your turn, and that's it. And if it takes you 5 days before you play your turn, then it's all right. So yeah, I think it works actually quite well, even if you don't have that much time. And it is, for me, as you said, it's exactly that. Like, it's a good excuse to learn more how my army works against different players and different armies. And and it's not necessarily like a tournament training. Like, I don't really care so much how well or poorly I will do at Clash of King. It's more I want to enjoy the game as much as I can and understand how my army works. I think is a source of interesting activity. And I've had a lot of fun with it. So
and that's the most important thing. Is there anything that's kind of surprised you, Clem, about your army or about other people's armies? Is there anything that really sticks out?
Well, so I think you get how can I say this? After playing 5, 10, 15 games, you realize a lot better what are the strengths and weaknesses of your army, and also like good things, like what does work, what doesn't work, both for what you do and what other people do against you. And like, I'm not sure I should say this, but in one of the games, my opponent figured out that if he went and chased my mage priests, my individuals, it would really hurt me badly. And so he managed, like, he had basically, duelist heroes that are designed to go and murder the backline individuals. And he did that against me, and without both of my mage priests, I lose two sources of inspiring, but also the surge option. And it was really super troubling, and it just lost me the game basically, because the army didn't function at all. Like I was.
Your fire elementals without your mage priests, they're just kind of average, hitting on 4s. Large infantry, right?
Yeah, and then you can't surge them, because part of the trick is to position them in a good way. And there's always, even if you don't surge, there's the threat of surge.
It's the threat of it, absolutely.
Absolutely. And so I found it very smart. Like, I did not see that coming, and no one else in the games that I played actually targeted the mage priests. Like, they survived basically all of my other games. And in that one, that guy thought about, no, I'm going to target them, and it will, just cut his back legs. And I thought, that's actually very clever. And I used,
But sorry, buddy, but he planned for it in as much as he had duelist heroes, so it's obviously something he'd been thinking of. And which army was that, Clem?
It's the Kingdom of Men army. Okay,
so in the story, so the Kingdoms of Men have sent out envoys. They've sent out assassins to take out your mage priest.
Yeah. That's
you're obviously creating waves, though, buddy. You're ruffling some feathers in Pannithor.
Something like that. Some negotiations didn't turn out so well. It's like, okay, let's go and
negotiations did not go as we hoped.
Yeah, but the fun fact is, I took that trick and I applied it to one of my other games that was going on against Undead, and he had a pretty tough center line with like 2 hordes of whites, 2 hordes of zombie trolls. But he only had one army standard bearer, like the tiny defense 4, 10, 12 hero to inspire the whole bunch. And I think I got him with my Phoenix. Like in general, I would never think about shooting an individual with a Phoenix, because you get the -1 because it's an individual, and it's like, come on, like, I'd rather heal my horde of ceremonial guards or something like this. And I specifically thought, no, in all of that area, the only inspiring is this guy, and if I manage to do a few wounds on him and get a decent nerve roll, or maybe over 2 turns, if I remove that guy, he's in trouble, because without inspiring, you're a lot less resilient. And it worked. Like, it worked really well, actually. Like, I popped the standard bearer in 2 turns, and it changed the face of that flank. So, interesting things. Again, it's small tricks that you see happen on the table, and then you can experiment with them, or maybe protect yourselves against them the next time. So, and again, it's just for me, it's a way to enjoy the game as well. Like the depths that there is in you could also just throw stuff forward and have a good time, because it's cool miniatures and cool game, but there is also some depth to it. All right, and I think it's still recording, even though we have a 4th person joining. So,
hello.
Good. Hi, Rob.
I feel like we need a massively referential build-up now. This is already it's an anticlimactic disappointment. Rob, so first question: how's your mum?
My mum, she's fine. I've been to see her today in Cleethorpes. Went for a lovely walk on the beach, and then my dad cooked us Sunday dinner, so I had it quite easy actually. That was quite good.
Sorry, just for those of us that aren't aware, whereabouts is Cleethorpes?
That is on the east coast of England. So no one knows where it is. Don't worry about it.
How far up are we thinking?
I'd say halfway.
Halfway, perfect. Okay, great. Fantastic. Rob, thank you so much for joining us. So luckily for you, you've already missed Steve Hildrew.
That's what we tagged each other in.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But I imagine there'll be quite a lot of overlapping questions.
Okay.
In as much as, we're desperate to hear about the ascent of the Goblin King.
The perfume or the book?
Yeah.
We've had this joke already, absolutely. We got a good 10 minutes of content for the podcast out of that joke.
Yeah, it's. I'm actually thinking of doing a video, like a spoof perfume advert for it, actually.
Actually, Rob, before we talk about this, I think you're aware, but I will not stop talking about your amazing Deadzone Asterion and Plagues short story. That is honestly the most exciting bit of Mantic lore I've ever read. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
That's incredibly kind, Chris. That's I was quite amazed when I think it was someone told. I know. I tell you what, I heard it on the last Mantic Universe podcast when you were really sort of going on about it. Then I was like, wow, this is. I never realised that because to be honest, I wasn't sure how many people were actually reading them, if I'm brutally honest. So that was really nice to actually hear that you enjoyed it. And that one was an interesting one because I suppose I don't want them all to be the same. Like they're not. I don't want them all to just be, oh, here's another fight. Here's a big fight. So for that one the thing I tried to do for that one was to make marionettes interesting. Because
we talked about this. Yes, so that was one of the big things. So as we know that marionettes tends to be an Asterion in a warehouse or office somewhere, remotely piloting,
on a 9 to 5.
On a 9 to 5, exactly. Going on his break, exactly. Got to talk to my supervisor. But then you changed it, so created a situation where they basically had their own AI, and they were going a bit wrong after so many missions of being out in the field, and they were all going a bit wrong. And I think we can talk about it now because it's been out for a little while. If people haven't read it yet, dear listener, if you don't want to hear spoilers, do go forward. Whatever. What do people say? Yeah. But yeah, so the marionette. So there's this Matsudan who's out, who has an anger. Has an issue with his temper, it seems. It's kind of hinted at. You don't go into great detail, but it's fantastic. And he's been sent out with a team of marionettes to do the dirty work. It's very obvious that High Command aren't exactly telling him all the facts. If not, they're downright misleading him.
Well, yeah.
They're leading him on. And, so his AI allies are basically all slowly but surely going a bit wrong. And he's getting sort of increasingly nervous about them turning on him. And I loved all that stuff. I thought was so interesting. And I've already I played a Deadzone game just last week with I built that strike team and played it out.
That's cool. And that's exactly what I wanted people to do, to actually to paint them and okay, this one's I can't remember any of the names now. That's really awful, isn't it? But this one's like the sniper, sure shot. I think it was something like that. Or and so because it goes back to the whole reason for that is it goes back to when I'm still in the habit, when Mantic, I suppose it was we then, when Mantic did the Matsudan, we knew we wanted to put them in the Asterions because we thought that was quite a good link. And that was actually, I'll be totally honest, the Matsudan going into the Deadzone list was actually like a mistake because I got the name of Otusora wrong. So Otusora is a Star Saga mercenary. And so when me and Andy Sharp were going back, this was when we were doing Escalation, I think it was, or Outbreak. I said, make sure Otusora goes in the Asterion list, thinking it was actually the Asterion with the big eagle on his arm.
Right.
And then actually, when I saw the book and we put Otusora in there, I thought, oh no, I've got this wrong. But actually, I really liked it, and I thought they sort of had that kind of, because you've got the mechs and that kind of aesthetic in the Asterians, and I thought actually the kind of sort of samurai style fitted quite nicely. So we kept it in, and then that was quite popular, and then the Matsudan were quite popular in Dreadball as well, again with that sort of Japanesey kind of look, samurai look. So when eventually we decided to put the full, more characters in the Asterian list, it was like, well, we've got a problem here, because if they're teamed up with the marionettes, who's controlling them? So that's when this idea came of, well, actually the Asterians are kind of using them a bit, because they don't want to be seen to be getting their hands dirty. So they've taken the Matsudan's inherent distrust of the GCPS, and they're sort of exploiting that slightly and sending them out with these AI marionettes, and that's how it all came about.
And I kind of think of the Matsudan, to be honest, as being a bit of, they're one of the, I wouldn't say they're the good guys, but they're one of the more sympathetic races.
They're 100% people who have been a victim of the GCPS expansion. They were, I don't know if you've read their fluff behind them, but it was basically they were, the Matsudan had different houses, like different technological houses, and they had all this great technology that GCPS were like, yeah, sweet, we want some of this. And they totally.
We don't have this concept of honor that you have, but we'll have this technology.
Yeah, and so that's what kind of really cheesed them off, and their honor in that case kind of really, because they thought, oh, brilliant, they're showing us respect, they want our kind of technology, but actually it just didn't go the other way. The GCPS didn't care.
No, of course they don't. No, absolutely. No. And the Matsudan, I think they're almost as old as the Asterians, aren't they?
I don't think we've never really gone into exactly how old they are, but yeah, they're on their second planet already, because the other one got destroyed by a giant monster.
Oh, that's why it's Neo Matsudan.
Yeah, so Matsudo got destroyed by the beast of Matsudo, but I think although it is a monster, it's kind of hinted that could have been their own sort of hubris that kind of brought about their end, that they did something and possibly destroyed their own planet.
Which I'm assuming is what the plague, what the Asterians did with the plague, because I'm assuming the Asterians were very much behind the plague.
Yeah, I don't know. And Matt Gilbert has all that mapped out. I know he's from really the early days of Deadzone, because I had some different ideas about what they could do with the plague. But yeah, I think that the Asterians are the ones that know what the plague is, I think, if I remember rightly. But they're obviously keeping that firmly under wraps.
Yeah, well, they sort of said, when humans came about, GCPS came about, they were sort of like, don't ask any questions, but don't go into that bit of space. Please we call the Death Ark.
Yes, the clue's in the name, guys. It's like Mount Doom. You don't go
Operation
to
Swift Victory. Yeah, exactly.
And isn't it how you tempt someone to go there? It's like, how do you deal with a kid? Like forbid them to do something if you want them to do that.
The cupboard of forbidden mysteries. Exactly.
A big red button that says "Do not press."
Exactly. Yeah.
And funnily enough, you were touching on the idea of the marionettes. So we haven't actually done it yet, but I had an idea of actually having a campaign weekend where I was thinking maybe the Maison Labs, but actually it could be something different now due to this short story. They somehow hack into the Asterian defense grid and basically just hijack all of the marionettes and all the droids, and then the Matsudan, Kalishi, all the actual live stuff have to fight back and win back their defense grid and their planets.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And I love the Maison Labs for that sort of stuff, because the Maison Labs are a great baddie in terms of they just have their fingers in all the pies, so you can do whatever you want with them. I think Maison Labs was another one that I really enjoyed, sort of delving into their background and thinking, because obviously they're in Star Saga, you don't really find out a lot about them. So then I thought, oh, actually these are a really interesting faction, and I'd love to see them grow. Like before I left Mantic, I'd sort of mapped out what they could do in the future and where they could go, and it was like a true, obviously you've got the plague, which is horror in terms of like, say, undead, but this was more horror in terms of like hammer horror, so werewolves, vampires. I really like that idea that you might have cybernetic vampire, like werewolves and that sort of stuff. So who knows if that'll happen, but I'd love that if that did. That's
really cool. Exciting. I mean,
also, Rob, great.
Sorry, I mean, I'm assuming the background for the Maison Labs was, I mean, obviously they were the bad guys in Star Saga, but I don't have, I'm an outsider, but I get the impression there's an awful lot with Mantic of trying to do as much as possible with as minimum spend as possible, and going, okay, we've got GCPS, we've got the plague, mad scientists.
Yeah, I think it was certainly, the Firefight army was definitely that. That was something that me and Andy Sharp spoke about, was, you've got these, and actually I suppose a bit for Deadzone really was a bit like, okay, well, they've clearly got their soldiers who are the GCPS, because pretty much any kind of organization has their own like core of GCPS soldiers, so they definitely have those. And then it was like, well, actually, let's look around and think, you've got the big the spider from Dreadball. That's really cool. Okay, well, yeah, they probably would have giant spiders. So we sort of looked around.
Overdrive, don't sell yourself short.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so we looked at those and thought, which ones would they do? So yeah, it is fun. It is good to look around and think, okay, what could we possibly put in here that people might already have, or they might not have seen before because they play a different faction, and pop that in.
It reminds me a lot of Resident Evil, but also those kind of cult classic 1980 horror films like Reanimator.
Yeah.
The sort of Lovecraft and, sort of injecting dead bodies with glowing green liquid and sort of laughing maniacally. It's just, I honestly, Mason Labs is one of my favorite factions from any universe. I just love it. Absolutely love it.
I think they're a lot of fun, and I think you can be a bit tongue in cheek. Obviously, we did the Mason Labs like newsletter, like pretending that everything was fine and that that
was brilliant,
evil.
But that was so funny. You did such great work on that, Rob. That was brilliant.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing those. That's the kind of silly side of them, but actually they're really nasty. They're not good people at all. So
no, absolutely not. Absolutely,
they're probably worse than GCPS, I'd say. Actually,
I mean, they're one of the. I mean, I suppose they're probably one of the worst aspects of the GCPS. But the GCPS, it's naked. You know where you are with them in a sense. They are entirely corporate. Their priorities are making money. That's it. And Maison Labs are doing it in a lucrative, high risk zone.
Twisted way.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is twisted to our morals, but to theirs, it's irrelevant what they're doing. Whether the fact what they're doing is horrific. It's irrelevant. They're after, they're trying to make profit. And sorry, Rob, just to cycle back to something you mentioned a little while ago, you were mentioning some crazy ideas you had for the plague that weren't implemented. Could you touch on that for us a little bit?
No, not the plague. No, the plague. I think that was
already said.
I can't remember. Yeah, I think the plague was already sort of done. I can't remember what. No, I think maybe I had some ideas just for the Mason Labs, basically that kind of hasn't been done yet. I don't know.
The Hammer Horror stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Because I wonder, because Clem and I have talked on the podcast previously about could there be new corporations for the GCPS, but I think we agreed you could easily knock out new corporations and you could do the Council of Seven and all the rest of it. But unless it makes new and interesting ways of playing the game, there's no point of just doing factions for this or sub-factions for the sake of it. And I think the Maison Labs is the perfect example of a new faction that was new and interesting and changed how you play. And we love how the rules and the lore tie in so beautifully, particularly with the Maison Labs. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think what you could do potentially with the GCPS is obviously have, and it'd be quite difficult because I think I don't know how to do it, but you could have different, obviously they're stationed at all these different planets throughout the galaxy. So what you could potentially do is you could have one, well, if they're on a planet like Hoth, let's say, well, they'd be all in there. And there was those, I can't remember who did it now, but there were some people in the Deadzone group who did some really nice like conversions with the Northern Alliance. So there was a Northern Alliance body.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I saw that. They were great. Yeah.
I think Clive Stone did it at Mantic, but then there was someone else, Pete Jones maybe, who did it as well. And I think that'd be really cool, because what you could do is you could potentially, and again, this is like you were just saying, Chris, is using a bit of the existing Mantic stuff, where you could have those teamed up with like a Frostfang or something like that, like it's on the planet. So those kind of things, or you could have a desert GCPS, where they're different things. So they might have the core troops, but they're slightly different around the edges. I think that'd be cool, that sort of thing.
I'd love to see actually GCPS who are, because I think the Nameless are occupied by the GCPS. So these weird space monster planets. I'd love to see the GCPS who are kind of sent there. They're the kind of like the garrison there to see, they've been in that environment.
So GCPS can't get to the Nameless. That's the Mariana Trench.
Oh, sorry. I beg your pardon.
No, so that Nameless are another interesting one, actually, because it was like, what are they going to do? Why have they started? Because in Dreadball, it sort of says, they're a peaceful race and all things like that. So that was going back to Outbreak, and it was like, well, what? Actually, no, Star Saga, really. Why are they attacking now? And what are they doing? So there's a few ideas floating around for that one. And in the end, that was Christopher Verspeak who came up with this idea that the nameless planets are all these, because they're all different creatures, so there might all be all these different religious sects on the planet, and some of them want to be more aggressive, some of them want to be more passive. So we had that. We had the Outbreak campaign years and years and years ago, and basically the outcome of that was because the nameless were incredibly aggressive in that's what happened. So the kind of religious sects who wanted to be more aggressive, they took over, and now they're sort of openly kind of at war. Well, some of them are openly at war with the GCPS.
Oh, that's really interesting. Fantastic. And we talked an awful lot about Warpath, obviously. And we probably want to bring it back to your new book.
Oh, thank you, Chris.
Wait, no, not yet. I have one more question. When are you writing sci-fi stuff, Rob?
Oh, a sci-fi book?
Yeah.
Oh my God! It took me long enough to do this one. I did. So I pitched a few ideas to Brandon at Wing to Sar a while ago, and one of those was a detective story. That was an old. No, it's not a detective story. It was a detective story. It was a sci-fi story. It was basically an old steel warrior who'd kind of got injured in battle and then had become a private detective. So kind of Blade Runner style and all things like that.
I'd love to read that. Honestly, I would love to read that.
And he was investigating the people. It was a murder. Kind of he's approached by a GCPS kind of security guard. They're on a Forge Father planet or something like that. So that was the one I pitched. But the thing is, you have ideas all the time, and it's just spinning those ideas into a full 100,000 word story.
The follow through is the tricky bit. And Rob, so obviously you've written the short story I love, the Deadzone short story. You've also written an Armada short story. So is that so? And forgive me, I've not read that yet. But I'm very much looking forward to it. Is this something you've come back to recently to writing? Did you miss writing stuff for Mantic, or is this something you've had on the back burner for a while?
No, so I did. I think one of my favourite things to do at Mantic was the creative side of things. It was doing the short stories and doing a little bit of fiction. I wrote bits of lore when I was there, and
it was really clear you loved writing those Maison Labs memos.
Yes. Yeah, exactly that sort of thing, and that was kind of element I really, really enjoyed. And then actually, I must admit, once I'd left, I hadn't really thought about anything. And it was actually Matt Gilbert because we'd always talked about having more lore, because obviously, a bit like you, Chris, you read that Deadzone story and then you were like, oh, it kind of inspired you to kind of do some Asterians. So that was the idea, is that people might read this lore and then be inspired to actually do a faction or play a game. So I think it was just before Christmas, I think, Matt contacted me and said, oh, we're thinking of doing some lore. Do you fancy doing a bit? And I was like, yeah, sounds right on my alley. So the first one was, he did tease me in with a Goblin story. So it was Halflings versus Goblins and that was based around the ambush sets. I had to look at what was in the ambush set and think, okay, well, this is the battle is going to be between these two. Then the next one was a Deadzone one to accompany the new starter set. The Armada one is about Trident Realm. I've just done another one, which is more RPG based, and then I've got two more to come after that. So yeah, it's been really fun actually, because that was, like I say, that was one of my favourite things to do when I was there.
I'm always incredibly, I don't know, I'm so sort of I don't know what the word is really, but I sort of went and got a job because I needed a job. It never occurred to me to go and do something that I was, passionate about, trying to monetize my hobby kind of thing. And I'm very, I really admire people that go off and do creative things and things that they're passionate about. But also, I'm kind of fascinated if your work and your hobby, sort of overlap, as it were. I'm really fascinated what that does. Is it still fun to paint models? And when that's your 9-to-5 job, do things get blurry? Do you still want to go and play a tournament at the weekend or whatever?
That's interesting actually, because I've done a few jobs where, back in the past, I used to write for like Nintendo magazine. So there, you're kind of playing Nintendo games and then reviewing them. And what you tended to find is that even if you were playing a game, for fun, you would end up mentally going, oh, well, that's not, or I wouldn't, that's that. I'd mark it down for that, or I'd do something different for that. So even then, you're always kind of on, and you're always looking at things and with a critical eye. I guess I think when I was at Mantic, I think the lines become blurred. And when I was talking to Steve Hilder a bit about this the other week, actually, I was saying that I did find that although I was painting in the evenings and I really enjoyed painting, I was painting stuff for blogs or because there was a new release coming out. So I'd be like, okay, well,
right. It's not just for your fun. You're not just for your enjoyment. You're doing things for a goal, for a work goal.
Yeah. So there was always that pressure on that. Okay, I need to get this done for 2 months' time because we're gonna be having a video and I want to use this. The one thing I would say is I think it definitely I got more armies done and project. I mean, I've got loads of Deadzone armies, strike teams, loads of kind of Dreadball teams and all that sort of stuff. It did push me to make sure I got stuff done. Whereas now I'm really lazy, so I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll get around to these salamanders when I've got time. But
welcome back to the rest of us.
Yeah. It's but it is quite nice because that pressure's not on. So I've got more time to do things like these stories that Matt's wanted me to do and some other little bits and bobs with Mantic as well, which has been quite nice. Best of both worlds, really.
Did you just need a little bit of time away, do you think?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think it was. I think so. I think the thing is, it was because I was doing the community stuff. You're basically always on. I think that was my own fault. I'd always kind of be on the Facebook groups looking what was going on and kind of checking out if there was any problems or if people had an issue with something, so then I could reply and sort of say, oh, let's get this sorted out for you. So it's hard to take a break, and I guess it's similar with the models. Each evening I was doing something, to do with that. So yeah, it was nice to kind of be able to draw the lines, I think, a little bit better.
And dear listener, Rob was actually due to be on probably episode 4, I think, and we're now on episode 14 of the podcast, and very excited to have him on. And when we're coming up to record date, and then he came back and said, well, actually, I'm leaving Mantic, so maybe you don't want me to come on. I was like, no, we do want you to come on. And it's like, well, I don't really want to do it. So
yeah, well,
which is fair.
I think it was sort of, particularly at the time, I just thought, well, I've just finished and what would I say, I guess? Because it was more, obviously normally I was coming on podcasts to talk about what the new releases were and all that sort of stuff, which I really enjoyed doing. I enjoyed doing the podcasts and the videos and all those kind of things. So I thought you'd probably be best suited to get someone else who can talk about with some sort of official kind of line about what's coming out.
That's the exact opposite of what we want on this podcast.
Yeah, we want to hear all about your Space Marine army and whatever latest AOS project you've been working on.
We want to give the guest half a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
And then just get there unfiltered.
It didn't come in the post, unfortunately, today. So.
Yeah.
Oh, it didn't arrive. Okay, good. I didn't know where Cleve's thought was, so I didn't know where to send it. Fantastic. Super. Rob, that's all super, super interesting. I think we need to give you an opportunity to talk about Ascent of the Goblin King.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, what do you want to know? I guess let's.
So what's so great about goblins?
I tell you what, I was thinking about this the other day about why I love goblins so much. And I think it's because it goes back to the film Gremlins, I think. And I think you can draw a lot of parallels between Gremlins and goblins. And I was obsessed with Gremlins 2 when I was younger, because I tried to watch Gremlins 1 and I was too scared. I couldn't watch it. And I said to my mum and dad, I really, really want to watch Gremlins 2. So I had to desensitize myself by buying a Gremlins 2 sticker book and then basically putting all the stickers in and then opening it really quickly on a page and like shocking myself to look at a gremlin to try and scare myself. And after that, I was like, look, and showed my mum and dad, look, I can look at these gremlins. I'm going to be fine watching the film. And then I just watched it over and over again. And I just sort of liked their malicious sort of fun, that they're kind of nasty, but at the same time, they're very amusing. And I think you can see that carried over in goblins, particularly, I guess, not necessarily in Tolkien goblins, but definitely in the Games Workshop goblins, which is where most people started off. And I don't know, I think it's the first time I got Hero Quest, went into a shop, and obviously you're confronted with all the different miniatures. This was a local shop near me, and I think I saw some snotlings and some goblins, and I was like, these are the ones for me.
It's the kind of smiling malice behind them, right?
Yeah, it's that they're grinning at you while they're stabbing you, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that started. I had a lot of big goblin army for Warhammer Fantasy, and then when I came back when I found Mantic and there was Kings of War, I just really, really liked the fact that the goblins were their own thing, and they were separate. They weren't kind of under the boot of the orcs. They were their own army in their own right. And I thought, oh yeah, this is great. This is what I've always wanted them to see. So they're not the oppressed.
If you tried that with the Mantic goblins, they stab you in the underside of your foot, basically.
Yeah, and they're the cleverer ones. That's so. Yeah, and I just and then since reading about the goblins in there, I was like, these are definitely the ones for me. I like the lore, and obviously in 3rd edition, I got to rewrite a bit of the lore for the goblins and update it a bit to make them a bit more interesting and a bit more well-rounded. And I guess it was while doing sort of Edge of the Abyss, came up with that character Grogger, and I really liked Grogger. I thought he was a really, really interesting character. I mean, I guess all goblins have delusions of grandeur. So just in case people haven't read Edge of the Abyss, we introduced a load of new characters in there. And one of them was Grogger, who was this kind of goblin that had a vision that he would be the king, he would be Goblin King, and he would be the one to, unite all the goblins. And it does say in the lore that if because there's so many goblins, if anyone king does actually manage to bring them together, then that's it. They'll be like a green tide. They'll flood down and take over. But the problem is they're also paranoid and self-protective that they just never do it.
So do they spend more time killing each other than killing anyone else, kind of thing?
Yeah, particularly in leadership. I think it's a precarious position. You don't want to be in charge because you end up becoming so paranoid that you just don't get anything done. You end up fighting, and that's their way. They all want to be in charge, and then as soon as they're in charge, they want to clasp onto it. And some of the lore says that that they're always in the center of like the nest and all that things, because the idea is if they're in the center, anyone who comes into the cave is going to have to fight through everyone else to get to them. And there's all those little bits like that they're obsessed with keeping themselves safe.
So once someone ascends to power, I imagine there's lots of sort of palace coups. It's not palaces, but you get the idea of what I'm saying. How long do they typically manage to cling to power? It sounds like people are almost immediately plotting against them. They're constantly plotting. It
can be weeks, I think. Sometimes I think there's not many. I mean, if you look at the sort of existing lore for Mantic goblins, there's not many that are mentioned as kind of, the only one you've got really is Magwar, who's sort of mentioned as a key one. I think other ones last maybe a few years if they're lucky, and that would be because they've kind of made sure that before they take the throne, they've got some big bodyguards like trolls or luggets, and that's how they kind of take command.
And Rob, this is a really random question. On the map of Pannithor I've got on my games wall, there's I think it's called Glimmer, the Goblin City of Bronze. But I haven't. Forgive me, I haven't read any more of the lore.
There isn't a lot on Glimmer. Me and Matt Gilbert have often talked about what Glimmer is, and we did talk about if there ever was to be a follow-up to Ascent of the Goblin King. So this could be Perfume of the Goblin Lord or whatever.
Fall of the Goblin King.
Yeah, well,
going up, going down.
There is an arc, isn't there? The Ascent. I think it was Ascent, like Adventures, and then like Fall or something like that, maybe. But that was going to be set in Glimmer, about him trying to get to Glimmer and find out what's there.
Oh, that sounds super.
But no one will ever know, potentially. I don't know.
That sounds super interesting, and also a little bit sad. Mark, I'm sure you've got hundreds of questions.
Well, I mean, I guess one of them is going to be. There's so many great ideas. There's only so much time, and Winged Hussar can only pump out so much. So, that's definitely part of it. So we've got a lot of books coming in the arc. But do you have another one in the off with them?
No, I don't. To be honest, no, I don't. I think I know Brandon's really busy. I think, I guess it's all you want to see how well this one's received. I don't know before I start pitching another one, because people might get in and go, God, this is terrible. I hate goblins. I hate reading about goblins. This is ridiculous. But I mean, like I said, I did map out ideas. The one thing, so I'd sort of after doing Grogger, and I really enjoyed Grogger, then I did the Twitch Keeneer, which is the Ratkin shaman, and I love Twitch. I really do, and I think I'd love really to do a villains series almost, where you look at the different villains. And I was gonna, because I liked Twitch so much, I was gonna try and cram cram him into a sequel to Grogger if I'd ever did that one. That basically Grogger ends because there was that war, obviously, between the goblins and the Ratkin. So I thought it'd be quite fun if Twitch ran into kind of Grogger, and then Grogger accidentally gets the Eye of the Abyss, which is that gem that Twitch is looking for, and then they end up in Glimmer and something like that. But I thought that was sort of where I was going with it potentially.
Maybe if he gets it, but he doesn't actually have any idea what it is.
Well, that's
he just thinks it's a really cool gem or something.
That is exactly what it was. He would have absolutely, because he's well no, I nearly gave a spoiler out then. But yeah, I love this idea that goblins often, particularly the wizards, have no idea what they've got. For them it's just some sort of trinkets, and they love to hoard. It's all about stealing things and gathering as much stuff as they can. So sometimes they just won't know that they'll have this incredibly powerful spell. And there's a bit in the book,
and they might be using it for totally not what it's intended.
Well, yeah, they don't know, or it does say that they'll steal a spell, work out how to read it, and then just explode because they don't know actually what it is. So the wizards are really funny, I think, that because they aren't natural magic users. They just kind of become a bit obsessed with it, and they're like, yeah, I can do this, and then they just blow themselves up.
So in a sense of Goblin King, so we're following a goblin. So he's had a dream about becoming the king of all the goblins, which basically is going to end the world of Pannithor, effectively, if it comes true. Whereabouts are we? So if we think about the map of Pannithor, whereabouts are we?
So in terms of the map, so it's interesting. I had to do this the other day actually for Brandon because he likes his locations. The map and the timeline actually. So this book takes place probably like just as Eye of the Abyss is happening. So because obviously he needs to have the vision that he has in Eye of the Abyss. So that happens in the book. He actually has that vision as part of the book. So it starts off slightly before he has the vision, and then obviously goes on to there. In terms of the map, we're just sort of, it's the Dragon's Teeth Mountains. So just between it's in that area with the Ardavician Plain and then Valentica and things like that. So it's in that sort of western side of Pannithor, because goblins are everywhere basically. So you can almost pick and choose where you want to set something. Fantastic.
It sounds great, and it sounds like, I think there's kind of a very dark sense of humor to it. So is it that kind of they stick a head on a spike and the head falls down the spike and they all laugh? Is it that kind of like nasty sense of humor sort of thing?
It is. They do have quite a cruel sense of humor, but I think I wanted, because obviously the majority of it is from Grogger's point of view, and as far as he's concerned, he is brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Everyone else is stupid. He's surrounded by imbeciles. So a lot of it is him being constantly frustrated by these ridiculous other goblins that don't live up to his expectations. But yeah, the humor is quite dark. I mean, I guess it's but I always like Blackadder. I don't know if you've seen Blackadder.
I love Blackadder. Yeah, of course I do. Yeah.
So you've got Blackadder there, who's surrounded by absolute idiots. He thinks he should be, the Prince Regent or something like that. So it's very similar to that. Grogger has got absolute delusions that he is, a cut above everyone else. But yeah, the humor is sort of, I think there's some, hopefully, funny characters in it, funny moments in it. Maguire in particular was an interesting one because I wanted to give him, he's only got a couple of paragraphs with a fluff, and it was a bit boring. It was just he got a big moor beast, and that was it. And I was like, okay, well actually I'd like to delve into a bit more on that one and find out, how come he's been around, how come Maguire has been around since Kings of War book 1, what's happened to him and why is he still around today. So yeah, Maguire is in there, and you find out a bit more about that.
Particularly when the goblins are so sort of backstabbing and.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a good one. I enjoyed doing Maguire, and I said to Matt, Gilbert, is it all right if I put Maguire in? He was like, oh yeah, fine, go for it. So that was all right.
But it is, to be fair, it is nice to have these characters that we can build out over a long period of time, and recurring characters and things. It is really nice to have that.
I think that's a weird thing, isn't it? Because you've got characters like, say, Golok. They've been mentioned for years. And obviously, for a dwarf, it's all right for them to be around for 100 years or whatever. But then you've got other of the named characters. You think, well, how long? What is the gap? I forget what the gap is between the books. In terms of the timeline, because it does move along all the time. So yeah, obviously things like Maguire are interesting because you think a goblin, probably should have been well, actually, some of them did die in book 1. You had Leo, the Iron Goblin, who never made a return. So yeah, I think some of them.
Maybe it's Magua third of the name. Like the beast stays there, and just someone stabs the first Magua in the back, and then becomes Magua instead.
Oh, I love this, Clem. Nice. Yeah. I'm Magua.
I did think about that actually. So that was going to be the whole idea that what character is it?
I love that idea.
I think there is a character where it's actually I think they talk about the salamander character, named character. Who's that? The captain. I forget her name now. Hang on. Firebrand.
Yes.
So Firebrand is like that. Firebrand has been around, but actually it's a completely different Firebrand all the time. So I did think about that that Magua would be the same thing, that he would hand over the prod and someone else becomes Magua. But no, this is the same Magua, and he's just completely he's a lunatic. So yeah, he was a fun one.
Can I ask quite a potentially awkward question? So you mentioned dwarves there, I think that's a really good example. So dwarves, in my opinion, dwarves in Pannithor are fairly generic. They're in their holes. It's Tolkien, right? It's Tolkien. There's an Imperial army, but let's be honest, it's very similar to the stuff that's come beforehand. Now, I imagine a lot of Goblin players love that, and much like the dwarf players, much like the dwarves themselves, they don't want that to change. But I think on the call here, we're big fans of mantifying things and making it something unique and Mantic's own properties. And is that a difficult path to tread for Mantic, do you think, between changing things, but also, like the new Star Wars films? They're sort of changing things, but also just giving us the same things over and over again, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think that is tough, but I think a really good example of Mantic doing a good job of that is the halflings. You look at the halflings, traditionally fluffy, sort of, quite friendly, second breakfast, all that kind of stuff, those characters. But the halflings in the kind of Kings of War universe are actually pretty horrible, potentially. They're neutral. They can go either way. They can be quite vicious if they need to defend themselves.
They eat their enemies.
Yeah, we joked about that. I'm never sure if that's 100%.
They've got the life leech. Yeah, a lot of them have got the life leech rules, so they are literally eating their enemies. Yeah.
Yeah, we did because that was actually an idea that came about from Vanguard. Actually, we talked about that in Vanguard, that they would be that the Vanguard actually for them would be chef, and that's why you get this a little bit in League of Infamy, where there is the chef, there's the greedy guts and all things like that. There's Mama Beata with the cauldron. So that's why they were more food based, because they were sort of like the Vanguard who was sent ahead to basically almost like locusts sweep the countryside of whatever food they could find, so that by the time the army marched up and met up with them, they'd got dinner on and everything was ready. So actually the chefs are like the Gordon Ramsay style nasty sort of chefs who will go around and kill people. So yeah, I think that's an example there of where there are some touch points in there which someone who has read Tolkien and things like that will be comfortable with. They'll be like, oh yeah, great, they're little dudes, they've got they haven't got fairy feet, have they? Because you never see their feet, but they're little dudes with kind of curly hair. There's a little bit of a food element in there, but actually they've been taken off in all these different directions and done that. And I think that's the way to do it. I think it's to have some stuff that's initially people are quite familiar with, and then kind of move it in different directions.
So speaking of halflings, what armies are in Ascent of the Goblin King?
So there's the main ones are obviously goblins and salamanders. So salamanders were an interesting one because I thought, well, there hasn't been a lot written about them. I like big talking reptilians, so I thought that would be quite good. And so that was sort of it's interesting actually, because obviously they're the good guys, but in this they're the antagonists. They're the ones that, and I think actually, and there is some human characters as well. And I think what I wanted to show was that sometimes they can be just as bad, if not worse, than the goblins.
That sounds really interesting.
So when can we read the book? Because I'm sold already. Like I've been sold for a while already.
Yeah, I mean it's been. I mean, God, this has taken this. I mean, it's taken a long time to actually. I mean, like Mark says, Brandon is very busy. So I finished it probably this time last year. They finished the first draft anyway. Then it went back to Brandon. Brandon had some rewrites. So I think I got another version through just before Christmas, and I had to go back and rewrite that, some elements of it, which is fine. Actually, Brandon knows what he's doing. He's a good editor, and there was some stuff where I just made it a bit confusing, I think. And although the core of the story was fine, there was just some bits that you sort of lose track, I think.
You must do, yeah.
Writing that much.
And then you have a breakdancing kangaroo character that needs a rewrite.
Yeah, funnily enough, I don't know how that kangaroo squeezed in there actually, but Grogger kills him pretty quick, so it wasn't too bad. But I think it is sort of tough to get it done, but I think it's out in June now.
Yeah, I think June is what I've heard. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited.
Also, I've heard you're going to sign copies at Clash of Kings.
This is Steve Hildrew spreading this vicious rumor.
I know I'll have my copy there, Rob.
Oh my God! I mean, I will be at Clash of Kings if people really want. Want them signed.
Get ready to sign.
You'll think I'm making fun, but I would like you to sign my copy, please. Clash of Kings. No, genuinely, you're laughing, but genuinely, no.
Oh, same for me. Like it's actually, completely.
That would mean a lot to me.
It's fine. £10 an autograph, and not a problem.
And you've spelt Chris wrong, so I have to buy another one.
Yes, that's right. And I just to eBay. Hope you enjoy the book,
dear eBay user. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Is there anything, Rob? Is there anything we haven't touched on? Do you think?
No, I think so. I think I think we've had a good chat about the book. I think obviously it's nice to. It's funny actually, kind of appearing on these kind of podcasts again and seeing familiar faces and things. It's quite nice. Obviously, I've been out the loop for quite a while, so it's been good.
You're always welcome here.
Thank you.
Always, absolutely. And I actually had one more thing I wanted to touch on, and it sounds like from your perspective, Rob, you're sort of dipping your toe back into things, but you're not, making the long-term commitment to writing a new book or something like that. So I just hope you keep writing the short stories, to be honest, because I think you're a really great writer.
Thank you. That's really nice. I mean, I think the main thing is I enjoy it, and I think Ronnie did sort of joke that when I left, he says, "Oh, you'll have all these sort of creative juices building up when you're doing a 9 to 5 and you won't have anything to do with them." And I think actually he is sort of right. And as disgusting as the idea of my juices overspilling are, I think that's what's been happening. And there's been some, when I think as soon as Matt said, "Oh, do you want to do these short stories?" I was like, "Oh yeah, actually." I think the only thing is I'm conscious that I don't want them all to be, "Oh, and here's another battle. Oh, and this is oh, here's another fight scene from this perspective." So the one that's out, obviously got the Armada one, which is out now. The one next month is something totally different. I've been reading a lot of M.R. James ghost stories, and I thought, oh, that'd be quite cool to do something a bit more like that. So I think that'll be the thing, is trying to be a bit more creative and making them all a bit different.
I've got to say, your idea about the murder, solving the murder case in the GCPS, that sounds so interesting, because you could go so many different ways with that, and you could uncover so many different levels of, corporate malfeasance in that. That sounds so interesting, because to be honest, it's fine. I think, we all read Steps to Deliverance. We're just about to do a bit of a, not quite review, but we're about to talk about Steps to Deliverance, and I think that did a great job of talking about battles, but there's only so many times and that did a great job of explaining battles in a way that relates specifically to Kings of War. That was great. But actually, do you know what? There's only so many fight scenes I want in a book, to be quite honest. It's the character-driven stuff I find the most interesting, not the
understand the universe as well, right? Like the battles I'm going to do myself, I want to understand the context around it.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, people will have their own battles at home, and they'll come up with their own reasons for why they're fighting and things like that. And you can suggest it. But yeah, I think that was one thing for the book, the Goblin, Sense of the Goblin King, was that I really wanted to delve into the characters and Grogger's motivations are fairly obvious. He wants to be king, but at the same time, there's a lot of self-doubt. He doesn't really know. And obviously for Magua, you're like, well, why is Magua around and all that? So that was really interesting. It's kind of delving into those. And I think the problem for me is I have lots of ideas for different stories. I think there was a Dreadball one at one point, and then there was obviously that one about the kind of detective. I love sort of private detective books, and years ago I started writing a book about it was like kind of futuristic robot private. He was a detective he was a robot who was a private detective, and it was all things like that. And I started writing that, and I never finished that off. So it was quite nice to actually finish this one and get it done. But I think it was during lockdown. I'm not sure I've got the time now.
And this is a really random point, but obviously you made Overdrive the game. I painted it up. I have not played a game yet. Can you talk me into playing a game of it soon?
So Overdrive is absolutely probably one of the easiest games you'll get into in terms of the model count, the rules. The rules are super easy. And I think what I like is that no game will ever play the game. And it sounds really kind of cliche to say no game will ever play the same, but it's true in this one because you've got so many different combinations of the drafting mechanic. So the drafting mechanic was a big thing where you line up your players on your side of the pitch, your opponent lines up their players, and then you it's a bit like the school playground where you're like, I'll have you, I'll have you. So you can kind of pick your team like that. So no teams are ever the same. You're never going to get one sort of like, meta list net list where everyone's taking the same characters because you just don't know what you're going to pick before. And then you've got all these kind of crazy games, which is, yes, the standard one is sort of like King of the Hill. So a bit like a video game, but then there's different ones, which is like Pass the Bomb, Dodgeball, and all these. So the idea is it is like playing, I don't know if you've ever played the video game Time Splitters 2 on the PlayStation.
That is one of my favourite ever video games.
Yeah, and the reason why I love Time Splitters 2 is because there are so many different game modes in it.
There was the one where you're stuck in a little room with a shotgun and the zombies come at you.
Yeah, I think there's the briefcase one, there's the monkey one as well, where you all get turned into monkeys. I love the idea that it's sort of the core rules are the same, but then on top of that, you can build all sort of crazy things. So yeah, that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to create something that was as close to like a video game multiplayer as possible in a tabletop game. And it's really quick. Games last about an hour, and it sort of takes a lot of the rules that you'll be familiar with if you've played Dreadball, and then gives them a bit of an extra twist. It's a lot of fun. I played it a lot with my kids in playtesting. And it's definitely worth a go. I'd put it next on your list, Chris.
Clem, shall I put that next time I come to Berlin?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sold. Yeah,
nice.
100%.
Nice.
You mentioned quickly, Rob, about writing the fluff and so on. I'm kind of curious about, so what's the process there? Like, how does it work? Like, where does the fluff come from? And like, is there any creative direction in there? Like, is there a secret book someplace, or is it all inside Matt's head? Or like, how does it work? Like, I want to know more about where the fluff comes from.
That's really good. So certainly for Kings of War, Matt Gilbert has everything mapped out. Now, I don't know if he has it mapped out in his head or if he has it mapped out in a document, but he will know sort of where he wants the story to be in 5 years' time, for example. He will know what the timeline is, what might have happened at that point, and what's going to go on. And then within that, you can kind of play around a little bit and go, okay, so me and Matt, when I was still at Mantic, would have some meetings and we'd go, oh, this would be really cool if we did X, or this would be quite unexpected. So let's do this. And obviously some of it will be based around new armies that are coming out. So, and he's actually, I think that's fine. Matt's been dropping hints for quite a while actually about stuff. But you have to look through all the books. You have to be looking in Armada, you have to be looking in Kings of War, you have to be looking probably on blogs as well about some stuff that might be happening in the future. Matt has that all mapped out. For I guess for the Warpath universe, it's really different because it's not one planet. It's a whole galaxy. So that one tends to be more that you'll kind of look at what kind of you might want to happen to a faction. So like I was saying about the Mason Labs, for me that idea was that they become more horror filled and they do stuff. But the Asterians, I'm trying to think if there's anything in the Asterians. Yeah, possibly there was for Nameless as well, looking at what might happen for the Nameless. So yeah, that doesn't tend to be quite as mapped out as intricately, because obviously the difference is with Pannithor is you've got to be really careful because you don't want to blow the planet up, I guess.
That makes sense.
Pannithor, the game's coming out soon with round base.
No, but I think as a player, that's something I feel in a way, right? Like I still don't know so well the Pannithor world. Like some of it is, I still have a hard time sometimes to really understand. Okay, where are these factions on the map? Like why would they be fighting, and what is canon for this and that? And sometimes it's a bit I don't really know where to find it, or it's not so obvious to imagine it on my own. Whereas for Warpath, I find it a lot more liberating because I think the overall framework is very clear, at least to me. Or maybe I'm making shit up and I don't know, but at least I feel the freedom to do that. And as a player, and I think it's really, really interesting and liberating in a way. Like if I want to come up with a story for like 2 or 3 games with friends, I think it's much easier for me in Warpath than in Pannithor because of that freedom. But
I'd agree. It's interesting you touched on that because obviously I ran 2 Kings of War campaigns while I was at Mantic, and that's really, really tough to go, why are they all fighting? You know, why are they all fighting in this location at this one time? You know, what brings them all together? And obviously the Edge of the Abyss, that was all spread out. You know, it was the Abyss opening up, which released all this magic, and then you're like, okay, everyone wants to get a bit of it and do that. And then Halpi's Rift was sort of a little bit similar in terms of that, you know, they opened the rift. So yeah, it is always difficult to think, okay, well, why would they all be gathering, and why is every faction involved? You know, why have they all got a kind of?
On the Kings of War, it's now something ridiculous. It's pushing 30 factions.
Yeah. So why is a halfling going to care as much as an orc about this rift?
Whatever. Yeah. Right.
So you've got to kind of make it like, and also, like you're saying in terms of space. Well, the successor kingdoms are all the way over here. And actually, I did something the other day because I was working out when Brandon asked about locations in the book. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like someone walking from New York to Texas, you know, that sort of thing. It's a long way. But yeah, and I think the difference with Warpath is because everyone is motivated by greed, pretty much. You know, certainly the GCPS is and that's a really good reason for, you know, if a planet is suddenly found to be rich in resources, or there's a problem with that planet, then they're going to lock it down. And so everyone's like, well, I want a piece of that. So it's a lot easier. And the beauty is you can destroy planets. You can just blow them up because you've got
Deadzone was genius. Just the reasons to fight, why we're here. It was perfect. It was so elegant. But I mean, Kings of War, you touched on it there. It's not just a question of, it's like walking from one side of the US to the other. It's not just walking there, it's going there with the resources and the stocks to make it there, you know, and the amount of time that would take, etc. Although, to be fair, we did just read Steps to Deliverance, and they have basically portal stones, which I thought actually I wasn't aware of. That actually made a lot of sense.
For the Abyss,
I'm not aware of those. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
That would make
sense.
They
have
with limited
stones.
Range, right?
Yeah,
limited range.
Little portal stones allow them to move, you know, like a vanguard warband around, and then there's big ones like Stonehenge. Maybe that's what Stonehenge was.
Yeah, could be.
That you can move a whole army. So that was the, you know, so
that does make more sense.
Anyway,
I forgot to say spoiler alert, Chris.
Oh, spoiler alert, dear listener. Cool. And Rob, I'm conscious of the fact, so we are pretty legendary for making very, very, very long podcasts.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So we're, you know, feel free to politely drop it whenever you need to.
No, I'm fine. I haven't got to go yet. I'm all right. Unless you need to go, obviously, that's fine. So yeah, if there's anything else you want to ask,
I do and I don't.
Same for me. I mean, I have tons of questions. Like, what's your Goblin army like? Or you said you're going to play ogres, right, in Clash?
Well, I'll probably end up playing salamanders, I think, because
welcome to the club.
Yeah, although I've painted, I've started painting the ogres. I don't think they're going to be ready. If I'm honest, like I was saying earlier on, because I haven't got the pressure of actually painting them for a blog or something like that. I tend to be, you know, faffing about doing other stuff in the evenings. But yeah, I've got my salamanders almost done. I just need to do a horde of ceremonial guard, because that seems to be like the big thing that you need for salamanders.
Yep. They're pretty good. I mean, the ogres, you only need 12 models, right? And you kind of do have a deadline. It's September 8th and 9th, right?
But yeah, no, but that's too far away.
He
Almost.
doesn't care about the deadline. All right, okay, fair enough. But actually, one thing Clem is great at, so he kind of touched on it earlier, is thinking about reasons why we're fighting. Why are these two armies? Because I think it's kind of a strength of Kings of War, but it's a double-edged sword, is often you'll go to the shop or whatever, and you'll see a game of Kings of War. There'll be a random generic fantasy house or medieval house, and then because it's models agnostic, you'll have two potentially quite different looking armies up against each other, and it's okay, well, there's ogres and there's rats or whatever it might be, and it's like, well, what's going on here? Why is everyone killing each other? And Clem's brilliant at coming up with reasons. So and jump in and correct me when I get this wrong, but Clem's idea is basically his mage priest wants to rise to be the head mage priest, right? So he's sailing around in ships, killing evil wizards because they put huge stock in magic and being able to use magic. So he's weakening the enemy by killing evil wizards, but also he's kind of raising his own profile by doing that and making himself more powerful. So he doesn't have tons of resources. He doesn't have tons of salamanders. So he's in his ship. When he needs to make an army, he just creates his fire elementals and his scorch wings, etc. So he's going around basically just assassinating wizards as his thing. So
it's kind of an ego trip, like bringing back your gizmos from the wizards and showing off, when you come back home.
Yeah, and then when Clem plays a game and he's nearly getting tabled, he's like, well, my army got wiped out, but I did kill that wizard, so I win.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's great. I think thematically, I think that's what you need. That's what I always used to really like when I used to read White Dwarf. That was the great thing to, the Battle of Kazakh Pass or whatever it was. You'd sort of remember these things because it sold you the idea, and that's why they were battling. And I think that was that's the beauty of a campaign, is that you can immediately give a reason for why they're fighting. But it is a problem when you're saying about the people using different miniatures, because you lose the aesthetic. So if you stumble across someone in a club playing Marvel Crisis Protocol and the Spider-Man versus Captain America or whatever, you're like, oh, okay, great, these are playing within the Marvel universe. And I think that's the difficulty that it is certainly for Kings of War, not so much of a Deadzone, because everyone pretty much, I think Deadzone and Firefight people tend to use Deadzone and Firefight models, but it's, I think, the fallout for Kings of War is that people dug out their old Warhammer armies and just threw them on the tabletop, which is fair enough. It's great that people play the game, but I think the problem is people care more about their models sometimes than they do about the game, because they've spent a lot of time they've invested a lot of time, a lot of money into those models, and they want an excuse to use them. For a lot of people, Kings of War was the excuse for them to dust them off and get them out, because fantasy was dead and they needed something to do. So I think that's a problem sometimes, because the aesthetics are all over the place and it's not consistent. So if you go into a club, sorry, Chris, you jump in there.
And also, let's be honest, Mantic aren't making any money off of that. Let's be honest.
No, and that's a big problem. Yes, you can say Kings of War is your favourite game, but if you're not using Mantic models, then it's damaging. Ultimately, it's going to damage Mantic. There's a big difference between buying the book and buying a full army, which is, and I think people know that, and it's just a shame. I think that's a game, and it does stop that kind of, it stops it. But you're not going to walk into a shop and always know, oh, okay, those goblins they're the Mantic goblins or whatever, because it could be anything. They could be playing Oathmark, they could be playing, one-page rules.
You say that, Rob, but actually, I think the last couple of years, I think probably, let's say generically, since Northern Alliance, let's say, I think there is an aesthetic style. I'd liken it to Warcraft 3, maybe, the computer game. But you can see, the Riftforge Orcs, the Ratkin. I think there's a follow through there. There's thought that's going into it. They're not just creating an army range. It all looks to me like it's all tied together.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're right that it is from, I'd say, post Northern Alliance, probably, maybe. Yeah, probably. There is that consistency between, that everything looks like it should belong together. They're all sculpted by the same person, Luigi, who does a fantastic job, which helps them to make sure they're consistent. You haven't got one of them that's hand sculpted, one of them that's digitally sculpted. They're all done by Luigi, so it definitely helps. It's just the fact that, yes, someone coming into Kings of War today and thinking, I want to play Ratkin, they're great because they're going to have all that consistency. It's the people who are just digging out they're using their older armies and using other stuff. That's the problem that you've got. I think that's, but as long as I guess if people are enjoying the game, then they might play it more, and then eventually they'll go, okay, well, I'm going to get into a Mantic army. And I think that's a slowly catching monkey, isn't it, really?
Well, I mean, those people are getting old at some point, right? I'll see also for everyone who's joining in the club, like this, see us play Kings of War. And some of them would say, oh, yeah, I used to play fantasy 20 years ago, but many of them just don't have any models anymore, right?
Yeah.
So they kind of still have this mental picture of, okay, what is an undead miniature, what is an empire, what is a goblin and an orc, or whatever, but they don't really have miniatures anymore. So I think now it's more a question of giving these people kind of an entryway into the Pannithor universe. I think also, as you mentioned, like Age of Fantasy is another system that people play a lot, at least locally. And I see a lot of 3D printed miniatures, right? So it's not just miniatures that people bought 20 years ago. It's also, I just want to use whatever miniature I like, and that's about it. And I think, yes, it kind of changes the aesthetic. For me, it's, as Chris mentioned a few times, it's really about how the table looks in a way, maybe, and try to have a mental picture of what's going on the table that is really like we're really fighting in Pannithor and not just a generic fantasy random stuff.
And then to take it a step further, we're in Chill, we're in Ophidia, we're in...
Yeah, I think this is the next step, and I think it's also something you slowly build over time.
I suppose that would be interesting in terms of, because I guess that's a really interesting point, actually, Clem, in terms of if you look at someone playing Infinity, it's really obvious what they're playing because the aesthetic is absolutely nailed down. I think it's to some extent with Deadzone, if you look at someone playing Deadzone, you know what they're playing. So what would be interesting, I guess, for Mantic would be, obviously they've got the terrain crate range, but if they had their own, if they really sort of visualize this is what this area of Pannithor looks like where you are fighting, and then had that scenery that was built so that the armies may change, but if you went into it and went, oh look, I recognize that bit of terrain, it's from the Mantic range of terrain, or they must be playing a Mantic game, maybe, I don't know, but yeah,
I think so. And we can cut up those terrain crate boxes and put them on our multi-bases for Kings of War.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Fantastic.
Interesting stuff.
So at some point we lost Mark, dear listener. There was some waving going on, which I didn't quite follow, and he's not returned. So
I think he mentioned so daylight saving times in the US happens earlier than in Germany. So it's late in the day for him, and he had to go someplace, I think.
Oh, okay, right. We've lost Mark. Okay, good. Right, so, Mark, have you read Steps to Deliverance by Mark Burman?
Rob Burman.
Rob. No, not Mark Burman. Mark Barber. Sorry, Rob Burman.
Which one? No, I haven't. I haven't read Steps to Deliverance. Okay. No, I've read Pious, which I thought was great. I absolutely loved Pious. I thought it was really, really good. It was a really quick read, and Mark did a fantastic job to turn that around so quick, because that came on pretty late, and Brandon did a great job to turn it around, because I think that was only a matter of months to get that out.
Wow, okay, fantastic.
So Mark did a really great job, and I really enjoyed Pious. I've read Drowned Secrets, and I read Last Hurrah as well.
What did you think of Drowned Secrets?
I thought it was an interesting one. I think I did it. I think I particularly enjoyed the bit where it was they go to the town, and it's been taken over by zombies, and there's that really chilling bit where they go. Oh, no, I'm not going to say too many spoilers now, but there's a really chilling bit.
Oh,
in that.
Sorry, dear listener, we now do spoiler alert section and spoiler alert.
Yeah. But no, I thought that was really good. I thought obviously the relationship between the lead characters was good as well. So Ben is clearly knows. I think it was Ben clearly wanted to tap into that horror sort of element, and I think for a lot of it he did it really well.
I liked, I mean, I like the sort of setup. I love the idea of the sort of the evil covenant. What do you call it? Abbey? Yeah, it's an abbey, isn't it? There was stuff in that I did really like. I did hear some people weren't so happy with some of the baddies' motivations, which, to be fair, I can I can kind of understand.
Oh,
but I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. But yeah, so we were going to do, Clem, we were going to do a quick, not review, but we were going to talk about Steps to Deliverance. So maybe we just very quickly do that. So this is Steps to Deliverance is recommended by Brandon as the first Kings of War novel people ought to read. And having read it recently, I can see why. It's a very, very solid story. I think what I liked about it, I mean, it's full of lots of archetypes, sort of Basilian archetypes, which I think does a really good job. What I really liked about it was, because we talk quite often about, is Basilia good or evil? Is it actually good or bad? Although Clem and I don't like the whole good, evil, neutral. We think that's a bit silly. But what I liked about the book is it does a really good job of basically saying, well, it's everything all at the same time. There's very, very selfish politicians who pull the strings, but also there's a lot of really good people doing good stuff as best as they can at the same time. So it's a conflicted place. Do you agree with that, Clem?
The British government, isn't it? At the top, they're all corrupt as hell. But then obviously, when you go down to the people in the NHS, they're all doing their hardest to get everyone sorted. So, yeah. I think.
Yeah, that part makes sense. Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, it's a better view into what Basilia is like. As you mentioned, in general, I'm not too much a fan of good versus evil, especially when it's a bit too monolithic. Like I enjoyed the book. Like it was a great story. I also really like that it's an audiobook, so that I can have it on when I'm painting miniatures or assembling miniatures and I'm in the universe. So usually I just have whatever podcasts or anything like this while I'm doing some hobby. So having an audiobook instead was really interesting. But yeah, I think the good versus evil, and especially when the evil is like they're just purely bad, I think there's kind of a missed opportunity in a way. Like I wanted to hear a bit more
from their perspective.
More depth for the abyss. Yeah, a bit more depth for the abyss.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like some of it also, I was a bit wondering like what's going on there. Like if you're a Basilian farmer or peasant somewhere, you kind of know that abyssals are real, right? Like I don't know, there's something that doesn't really compute for me, like in the good versus evil. Like if you know for a fact that hell is a thing
and evil exists and is in the world manifesting itself,
I don't know, like I think it kind of changes things a lot in the way you behave. Maybe you have different conditions, or maybe the peasants don't know for sure, or stuff like this. But like for me, from a logical perspective, something kind of breaks down in the story and how the universe works. Because how could you be a bad person if you know for certain that after you 25 miserable years of life, you will have an eternity of torment? I mean, like in real life, you could be a religious person and think, oh no, I'm certain hell exists.
You don't
really know, right?
But whereas I don't think you don't necessarily go to hell. I totally get what you're saying, Clem. But it seemed like in the book, occasionally people were getting dragged to hell, basically, to suffer an eternal torment. But I don't necessarily get the feeling you go to hell for doing bad deeds in your life necessarily. I'm not sure if I'm honest. Rob, I don't know how much you know about the Abyss, but it seems very closely mapped onto kind of Christian concepts of hell. Can you talk to that?
Yeah, I guess it's like Dante's Seven Circles, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? I think that's probably. I mean, I obviously wasn't at Mantic when they sort of created the lore for the Abyss. But that's always how it seemed to me, is that you've got these very different, each layer of it is based around, it's not really, well, possibly like a different sin or something like that. But then there's also the different levels of, the kind of lower down. Is it the lower down you are, the more powerful you are? I think that's the way it works. So because we tried to mirror that with the Ratkin. That was a big thing for the Ratkin when I did their fluff, actually. So to change it to make it a bit more interesting, so that they, they have this idea that they're obsessed with the Abyss, because they see them as helping them, and so actually they build their nests as kind of like a reflection of the abyss. So that's why the brood mothers at the bottom, and as you get further up, the slaves are right at the top, and I think that's so I guess that comes from that idea of the abyss as well.
Oh, I think there was a diagram at some point, wasn't there?
Yeah, so yeah, that was the whole point. It was to show that that's how they structure their nests, because to begin with, they were just all in. When they first escaped the abyssal dwarfs, they didn't know what to do, and I can't remember what it was. It was like, I think it was a warlock who basically said, "Oh, we should." He was saying he was getting messages from the abyss, he said, "Well, we need to structure it like this because look how well it works for them."
Because I think Clem and I both got, I don't want to say a problem, but it's difficult, when we're talking about why are people fighting. I think the cheapest, easiest way is to say, well, someone's good and someone else is evil. But I think that's also the least interesting way. Well, of course they fight because they're good and they're bad. So it'd be lovely to see more motivations of the abyss, a bit more complexity there.
I think the abyss is an interesting one because I think they are very much evil. They're in the barometer of
in the classic sense they're evil.
Yeah, you've got Basileans who, like you say, are kind of a bit in the middle. I'd say dwarfs are similar. I think all of them, even the goblins. If you actually go back to Kings of War Book 1, it actually says the goblins aren't inherently evil, and you can barter with them and trade with them. And I quite like that idea. At one point, I was pushing to make goblins neutral. Because I thought, well,
yeah, I like it.
All they'll do is that we touched on this earlier on. It's self-preservation for them. So if it's in their best interest to be good, I guess in some ways, look at them allying with the ogres, then they will. But then also, on the other hand, if it's in their best interest to team up with the Rifford Dorks, and they'll do that as well. So for them, it's just they'll do what they need to do to survive.
Which makes way more sense to me than saying, well, all their motivations are just, well, they're evil, so they're doing evil stuff.
I think, but no, sorry, go on.
No, I say the orcs are an interesting one because their whole thing is that sort of things that are good actually physically hurt them. That's the interest. They just want to smash it up because they hate it. It drives them to want to just destroy stuff.
So if there's one stick lying on top of another stick, they want to smash that because it's too orderly.
Yeah, that sort of thing. It literally, I think it is. Dave Simmons always used to talk about this. It physically brings them pain, and that's why they want to basically ruin everything because they're so ruined as a species, I guess. So I guess they're evil. Yes, they are evil, but their reasons for doing it are quite different, I think.
Super. That's really helpful, Rob.
Yeah, I mean, it's really a question about what is their end game, like what's the core motivation, right? And yeah, again, just because they're evil for me it doesn't cut it. Like it's a bit poor story wise. Like I need a bit more to imagine. Okay, like the abyss. Okay, they're evil. Like they will do all sorts of nasty things, but it's because from their perspective, this is how the world is or how the world should be. And Basilia is just a nuisance to them for this and that reason. I kind of want to understand the perspective of all of the factions in a way. I think that would be more interesting. Maybe it's also because instead of to Deliverance, they're the antagonists and not the protagonist. Maybe that's another reason why I didn't get as much depth as I wanted. As a Force of the Abyss player myself, maybe I should mention. But yeah.
I think they're a really hard one. They're a really hard one to write.
They might be the hardest though, because they are classically evil, aren't they? I think
Night Stalkers are harder to write. Like, can you write from the Night Stalker perspective? Like, what does the Soulflayer do after work, right? As you said.
It's interesting you say that. That was always one of my big problems with Warhammer, with 40k. It's like I could never imagine the world that goes on around it. They're in the future, in the grimdark future. There's only war. What's everyone else do?
Well, that's the point. There aren't. Yeah, exactly. There's no one relatable. There's no one like me going to their office job and just doing the boring things and having quite a nice life. Whereas Warpath, most people's lives in the GCPS are pretty much okay.
They're getting together on a Saturday night. They're going for some beers. They're watching
Dreadball
or Overdrive.
Overdrive, rather. Sorry, not Overwatch.
and that was that's the whole point, is you can imagine people living in that world, and that was why the third edition box set changed to add those little signs, like the sushi bar signs and things, so you can imagine, because I think one of the big things we wanted to convey is that it's not always a planet that gets locked down. It could be a continent or something like that,
or a space station.
Yeah, because they just want to contain the problem, and they're not always having to nuke it from orbit. They can just contain it, hopefully, and then just keep it there and then sort it out. So that was the idea for that one, is that that was Magnetar City, wasn't it? Yeah, and it's just been,
the campaign. Yeah,
Magnetar,
and it's literally just been locked down, and that's it. So
I think it's much more interesting. Like the nuance in there makes it more relatable, but also you can have more depth in the story you're telling. Absolutely.
So, dear listener, I'll just let you behind the curtain a little bit. It is quite late now.
Oh yeah,
so
sorry.
No worries. So No, Rob. Thank you so much. It's so interesting. So should we do listener questions?
I think
listener questions.
Listener questions,
and then I leave you to it, Clem and Chris. In that case,
of course not. We want to hear your opinion about.
Okay, I'll stay on for this then.
Perfect. So this is a pretty quick section. So Mo, General Gaddafi. Hey Mo. He's asking, Firefight beta, is that the right way to beta test?
What do you think, Chris?
I think it's a way, and I think it's a perfectly good way. I think showing us what the beta ideas are, I think makes a lot of sense. Giving us the opportunity to give feedback makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think so too. I think what I'm missing a little bit is kind of the time frame for it, in a way, because we sort of have an idea of what's coming after, but it's still quite vague for the general public. And I think usually when you do some specific testing, you can have a kind of a deadline and kind of a target of, okay, this is what we have in mind, and this is how we would change the stuff, and we want to understand this and that, and come back with feedback or an answer, or does that work this way or not? And maybe it's a little bit too open, I would say, maybe for the beta test. So I love that it's done in the open like this, that you have directly all the entries in the companion.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you can use it right away. And there's the feedback form. I think that's great. I think as a player, it would be a bit more helpful for me to say, okay, we publish the beta test rules. I don't know when they publish them, like late February, and by April 1st, we'll put it off and compile all of the feedback and come up with the actual updates for it. Kind of giving a time frame or context would have been a bit more helpful for me, I think.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Super. And then, Rob, you're all over this question from Danny Graves. So it's from Danny, so prepare yourself. Have you ever had nightmares, bad dreams, or feelings of a sexual nature about any of the characters in the Pannithor or Firefight universes? Let's get personal, go beyond regular podcasting into new realms of entertainment and insight. Kiss. No, I've not.
No, I'll be honest and say I, a few years ago, read some interesting fiction by Andy Ransom. Andy 2D6, who submitted a very interesting short story about an intimate relationship between an ogre and a goblin, and that was enough for me. I think that was.
Was it consensual?
It very much so. Yeah, it was. It haunts me, I think, is the right phrase.
I kind of want to read that now.
When is Brandon publishing that? Yeah.
You're just not looking at the right presses, Chris, but it is out there.
I mean, let's just say Edge of the Abyss. You could bring that name back for that one.
How do I access the dark web? Good. No. That was a very popular question, by the way. People really wanted the answer to that. Clem, do you want to say something funny?
I think it's just people want to hear what's going on inside your brain, Chris. That's all.
They do not.
Yeah, in reality, maybe they don't. I don't think so, and I wish I had, in a way. Let's just say that. Maybe on the feelings of a sexual nature, I think that's something I like in general about the whole aesthetic, but it's kind of not there. Like all of the female characters that I see in all of Mantic stuff are credible females. Like, if that makes any sense, like they're not just boobs in a way, like in so many other sci-fi or fantasy stuff. You're like,
there was a bit of that in Steps to Deliverance, though, wasn't there?
Isn't not
a little
so
bit. Well, definitely with the succubus. And there was a little bit.
Okay, no, but in that case, it sort of makes sense.
They kept reminding us how hot one of the
characters was. But for that character, it kind of makes sense. I don't know. Like, let me say it differently. I think what I like is none of all of those stuff I would be ashamed to show to my wife or to my nieces. And for me, it's very important. Like, sure, it's still mostly old white dudes, right? Not just, but sadly, it's the majority. But at least it's not kind of a bloker in that way, as much as some other.
No, that's Clem, that's a really good point, actually, because I think, being able to legitimately say I'm not ashamed to show other people this. This is not. Yeah, that's.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like, okay, I don't know. I think it's a bit more presentable, and so that's one side that I enjoyed. And I realize I'm completely hijacking the question, and I'm not answering the initial question, but I don't care. I do what I want.
That's our thing. Cool. Good. No, unless anyone wants to try and.
3 years ago.
What advice do you have for someone who plans to go to Adepticon for the first time?
Play as much as possible.
Oh, interesting.
That was what I loved about it, was the fact that most of the events you finish at 6, you're kind of shattered and you just go for a beer. And that, like when I've been to Gen Con, for example, that's what you do. You can't wait to get out of the hall. I think the difference was at Adepticon, which the one night I went and played a Dread Ball League in the Night with Andrew Wajansky. He put that on, which is fantastic. And I think there was always an opportunity to play games. And I think if someone's going, is definitely make the most of that. Don't just stay in the halls. Get out there, go and find some games to play, participation games, demos, crazy tournaments. Do as much as you can, play as much as you can, because that was. I would have loved to go back. It was the one event I wished I could have gone back to try and maybe take part in the Dread Ball tournament or something like that, or the Deadzone, just to play. But obviously most of the time I was on the stand
to go for fun rather than work. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I think that was the thing, and I think because it's a real. I'd say it's the greatest. 4 days in gaming you can have, without a doubt.
Yeah, because you have
Steve
everything.
Clash of Kings, obviously.
Yeah, so you have everything. Like, if you want to find 20 players of Dread Ball, you will find them, and then you can have a crazy event or tiny crazy tournament in the night, which is potentially hard to do in a another event or something. Okay, good point. Yeah, thanks. That's a good advice.
Rob, thank you so much for spending so much of your time. You've been incredibly generous.
My
we
pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
No,
really
I'm glad to finally get on, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope to have you back soon. But no, really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to reading the book.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing what people think. I think, and to see if they find some of it as amusing as I did.
So I'll be quite honest. Steve Hildrew was flat out rude about Drowned Secrets, and he was extremely nice about your book. So
slapstick, haha. Let's have a look at these funny goblins, because they are horrible in it.
Yeah.
But, like you said, it has got that dark humour, and there are some elements in it that are quite and there are some characters in particular who are hopefully out and out funny goblins. So yeah, I hope people enjoy that.
Super, fantastic. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to reading your murder mystery book as well. That sounded great.
Oh yeah, sure. I'll get around to that at some point.
Because as you said, just having endless battles and fighting and things, it's the character stuff we're interested in. And sure, some action is great, but that sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I'd love to do it, but we'll have to see.
Cheers, Rob. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
Cheers, Clem.
Bye, Clem.
Cheers, buddy. Bye, buddy.
Bye.
Okay, dear listener. So you're now in the future, confusingly enough. This Trent, this recording things and then stopping and then re-recording things is very, very confusing. So it's Chris here, and I'm joined by Trent and Mark.
Hey, everybody.
Heyo.
And we just want to do very quickly for topic of the month. We just wanted to, as they're manically packing for Adepticon, just wanted to have a bit of a before, and then hopefully next month we can have a bit of after Adepticon. So I'm just going to put myself on mute and let these guys talk about their experience so far, what they're planning on doing, how things fit together, and I'm going on mute.
Oh, there you go. Well, Trent, I don't know if you want to start off. I mean, you're traveling the furthest, so you'll be.
Oh no, Mark. After you.
All right. Well, I'm just going to say hi there real quick. I'm very excited. The build up to Adepticon, working on getting my army together for the Kings of War team tournament. That's the big thing for me. And so we're working through that right now. Colin decided he was going to build a brand new army and undead. And he is still, 22 models short, I think, of finishing. So we have based nothing. It is now Monday, the 20th of March. So I have no idea if he's going to make it or not. It's going to be a real chase to the end. I'm going to pull an army off the shelf and try to get a list in. I'm a day late. I should have got my list in yesterday, so we're going to miss out on 5 sportsman points, but I wasn't winning anyways. And so we'll see. I'm probably going to take orcs is probably what's going to happen. I'll probably get them together. And so we'll go from there. The reason why I didn't put a lot of effort into the Kings of War team is because, 1, helping Colin get his army together, and 2, I've been working on getting my Firefight army up to 1,000 points so I can work on that. So that's been kind of my prep so far. I have not even started packing. And so that's kind of my prep at the moment. So, Trent, what's your prep been?
Yeah, so this started a while ago. Actually, I was talking to Rob about coming back for one tournament this year since I moved over to Germany in July, and I was kind of going back and forth about Bug Eater because I went last year, had a great time. I was also thinking about doing Best of the Rest for Masters, but he's actually the one that brought it up. He's like, hey, you should do Adepticon because I'm in Germany right now, and I actually just looked it up. So from where I'm at in Germany to Chicago is right about 4,350 miles. I don't know how many kilometers that is, Chris. I'm sorry, I can't do that math right now, but it's a long ways either way. So it was interesting though.
I'm going to guess about 7,000.
That sounds about right. But it kind of made more sense for me because a normal Kings of War tournament is you show up Friday, play Saturday and Sunday, and then you leave Sunday evening. So traveling this far, it made more sense to go to one that was a little bit longer. And this is the first time I've ever been before, and I got pretty excited. So I signed up for a few classes. I'm signed up the main events I'm signed up for. So I'm signed up for the Kings of War team tournament, and then obviously Adepta Clash. But this has been the motivation that I've needed for the last 4 or 5 months to actually finish painting like all of my undead models that I had laying around. So I finally finished it. I painted way more than I needed to for my 2,300 point list, but it was nice because I was like, okay, well, I need 2 or 3 hordes of whites, but I have enough models for 6 hordes. Let's just knock it all out at once. So that's exactly what I did. I was starting to kind of sweat it there at the end, but I actually finished. I finished about a week ago, and it kind of gave me time to polish up my backstory, make my little display. I'm not gonna have a display board, obviously flying, but I got everything set up, so I'm really excited about that. And then I'm actually, and the 2 classes that I'm taking, I'm really pumped about. So on Wednesday night, I think, the 22nd Wednesday night, there were a few classes. So one of them is an airbrushing one. I've started airbrushing in the last year, and I prime with it, I base coat with it. I don't really do anything too fancy. So I'm trying to just, get up to from mediocre to maybe slightly below average for my skill level, and I would be happy with that. And then the reason that I'm not in the Armada, and I'm not in Firefight. I did not sign up for Firefight. I decided to take the this one huge block class. It's a digital miniature sculpting for beginners, because I started 3D printing recently, and that kind of just spoke to me. I'm like, oh man, it'd be so cool just to design like little bits and bobs. And that's what I like. I have a resin 3D printer, and it was I printed out some terrain pieces for this army, and it was really cool to add that like extra dimension to the multi-basing. But I'm super excited for it, and I know I posted about it in the Facebook page before. I work much better when I have an actual deadline. So I've some of these undead models I've had for over 2 years now, and they're finally painted and they're up on the shelf. I packed everything up really tightly. I didn't end up magnetizing it. I don't know why. I don't really like magnetizing the bases. And also I was already halfway done before I thought about magnetizing it. So the thought of drilling holes in the bottom of completely done multi-bases, I was like, I don't want to do that. But I got it packed in foam and like a Pelican case. So it's really overpacked. And I've only broken one model packing it so far, and I wasn't surprised. It was a Revenant Cavalry. They're kind of fiddly with just a couple of points of contacts on there. But got my super glue packed, got my tweezers packed, got everything to go for the most part. My wife was a sweetheart today and helped pack my suitcase while I was at work. So now I just focus on packing all my dice and my nerdy stuff. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. Also, I bought way too much Adepticon swag, so I hope I have room in my suitcase to get it all back. If not, I'll just ship it back or something. Or sell it to Rob or somebody there.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So you prepaid and you just need to pick it up?
Yeah. From my understanding, like I said, I've never been before. It's so you buy it when you do your registration, and then when you sign in to get your badge, they like look your name up, and then they just hand you the stuff right there.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's pretty cool. And Mark, I'm very excited to meet you and your son in person. I don't think I've actually ever met you before.
Great. Yeah, no, looking forward to it. I'll segue into my schedule. Yeah, I'm signed up for the Kings of War teams on Thursday. We're going to roll in Wednesday night, probably early Thursday morning, depending on how soon I can get out of town here. And then I've got the Firefight tournament that we're going to be doing, and only I'm doing that. Colin's playing Zombicide during that period of time. And then I have 2 GW classes. I took the basing class, and I forget what the other one is off the top of my head. But I'm taking two GW classes, and then I'm done. I think I've taken all of them at that point. So it's going to be very interesting to see who they send to teach them. And then the big thing is Saturday night is Mantic night. So Colin and I will be there. We've got our tickets purchased, and it should be a good time. Are you heading to Mantic night, Trent?
I am. That's the ticket that you bought on the Mantic website, right? It wasn't through the Adepticon one?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, no, I got it then. I was just making sure.
The best part about buying the ticket on the website is I used all my premium points to pay for my tickets. So it was great. So I used my UK Clash of Kings extra bonus points to mostly pay for Colin's ticket, which worked out great. So what the heck, right? So, but really looking forward to that. Evidently, we're getting vouchers and all sorts of stuff. I think we're getting a special like glass or cup or something like that, and some other swag. So it should be fun. And the big thing I'm looking forward to hearing about, hopefully, is the STLs. We mentioned that on the episode here. So I want to see what they're talking about that. So the STLs and how they're planning on doing that, because I don't know. I don't have a place for a resin printer, but I might have to get one if they're just selling STLs, or if you're going to be buying it from the Mantic shop, or how you're going to be doing that. So that's a big burning question I've got to be answered while I'm there. And then, of course, I am looking very, very forward to hitting the dealers hall. So.
Yeah, I made sure there was plenty of time in my schedule just to make sure I saw all the dealers possible. So it's quite the spectacle, I've heard. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, if you want to get an idea of what the dealer's room is all about, Colin and I actually did a walkthrough, I think, at Adepticon 2018. It's up on the Countercharge YouTube channel. So you can go check that out.
Oh, okay.
I think it's the Countercharge video that has the most views on it so far. So, but yeah, check it out. It'll give you a good idea of what the vendor hall is all about. So,
I wish you both the most wonderful time. I don't want to say I'm jealous, because I'm really happy for you, but Oh boy, this is one of the big ones, isn't it?
We'll get you over there one day, Chris.
There you go. I'd love to go in a couple of years, I think. Yeah, I really would. Genuinely would love to.
We're going to work on it for next year. So we'll Ronnie's not going to be there, but we'll work him over when we're at Clash of Kings and stuff like that. So we'll figure out a way to pull it off, Chris.
I feel like next year might be doable. Next year or the year after might be possible. Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, I'd really love to go, particularly because it's in Chicago.
And I just want to say I have not played a single game with my 2,300 point army yet, so it's gonna be really interesting. Not a single game, but it's finished.
Well, what's the general strategy? Is it whites and zombie trolls?
So it's zombies and whites and wraiths and a few revenant cavalry, and it's basically just shamble up and hopefully get some.
You know what you're doing, buddy. You know what you're doing.
With my 3 hordes of whites, I'm like, I mean, that could kind of get you a far enough, you know. So we'll see how it goes.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's nasty, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do have to say I'm proud. I thought of this idea. So I have my backstory is kind of like a sequel to my previous army backstory, my Forces of Nature. And I actually I got this is millennial mindset thinking. I made a QR code on my title. So you can scan it and like read my old backstory while my new one is right in front of you. So I figured, you know, that's got to give me some points somewhere, right?
That's incredibly cool.
I got to get them anywhere I can.
Make a QR code. That's incredible.
QRcodegenerator.com.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll see.
Fantastic. And is there anything, guys, that you're and sorry, Mark, you mentioned you were playing in a team tournament. Oh no, sorry, Trent. You mentioned you're playing in a team tournament.
I think we both are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're both.
Mark's obviously family.
What's that, Chris?
You're obviously playing. Is it doubles? When it's teams, it's doubles, right?
Mm-hmm. Doubles, yes. Yep.
Super.
So I have Colin as my partner, and we are grudged by Andy Sherman and his 11-year-old son Alex for the first. So we're going to be doing that, and then Trent, who's your partner for teams?
Chris DeGros.
There you go.
Yeah,
he's from Memphis, right?
Do what?
Is he from Memphis?
I can't remember. Oh, yeah, I think Rob linked me up with him. So we have we got a pretty interesting. I think it's pretty nasty, like undead EOD list. And Chris, it's a 2,000 point game, but each player brings 1,000 points, and it's like normal ally rolls too. But it's going to be a lot of fun.
That sounds really great. Is it kind of you can't inspire your allies' stuff and things like that? You can't enchant your allies' stuff, and makes sense. Yeah, makes sense. Super, fantastic, great. And I think, to be honest, guys, I think you've got manic packing to do, and you're very, very busy. But if we can just get you both on next month to talk about your experiences, obviously that would be wonderful. But I wish you both the most wonderful time.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having us on.
Cheers, guys.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. We'll do a little on-site reporting, too. So Countercharge is going to have the big rig and doing the big recording, but
we
I'll
can't
bring my mobile. We'll see what else is going on.
They come along and blow us out of the water with their professional quality.
I think maybe me and Mark will get Rob to drop an unedited episode.
Oh, that would be interesting to hear an actual, absolutely, compete on an even keel.
Rob would be on the floor twitching uncontrollably.
He'd be so uncomfortable. Yeah, I think there were a few instances in this podcast, dear listener, which were a little bit. We could have done with a bit more editing yesterday, I think it's fair to say, but it is what it is.
It's all part of the charm of MUP.
Yeah, right? I think so. I think own it, Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person, Trent. It's going to be great. And
same to you. Yep. We're going to have a blast.
Listener, we'll bring you a little coverage. We'll see what we can do for you. And we'll go from there.
Have a great time, guys.
All right.